Hello, and welcome back to the Arc of E podcast. My name is Noah.
And my name is Gavin.
And we're the Blanchard Brothers, and this is your second 2x2 retro review for the month of July.
Yes.
Technically the second episode in our little mini-series, Summers in the ER. And today we're going to be discussing Action Jackson.
And
From
1988? Yes.
And 21 Bridges from 2019? Is that correct?
That sounds correct.
Well, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
If you want to know exactly how we got here, you can head over to a little website called patreon.com/thearkofe and sign up for all of our awesome premium content that we're bringing you this summer. The brainchild of Mr. Gavin Blanchard. Sorry, we're getting back into the groove. It's been a little bit.
It's been a long, hot month. Just sweating like crazy.
Yes. But we got a little action-packed twofer in the spirit of the summer. The action season. What are you looking at on your phone? Sorry.
I'm looking up.
What's going on? You're giving me nothing to.
I got 21 Bridges queued up, so we can talk about it first. But go ahead. Yeah, no, it's been a minute.
Very professional. I haven't pulled it up on my phone either. So now you banter,
okay,
and I will help you. Not at all.
Okay.
While I do this.
Okay? That works. You said at one point when we were talking off mic, there was something we should talk about that relates to this, and like something with like the online back and forth. I don't know what you're speaking of.
Oh, just it'll naturally come up when we get to 21 Bridges, which I think we should do second.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and say that. I think we should close with...
Of the two, like seriously, just flat out of the gate, which one did you love the most?
Which one did I love the most? You're assuming I loved either one of these movies. Which one did I have the most fun watching?
That's what I mean.
What did I find the most entertaining?
Yes.
Action Jackson,
of
hands
course.
down,
Okay.
without a doubt.
Okay. Because I watched it last night again, so... I figured we could get 21 Bridges out of the way, but we could definitely totally end there because I feel like we are breaking the rule. We haven't done this ever or in a while.
Oh, no, we've done it because you're allowed one a year. You've
right.
used it. I don't know that I've ever used it thus far.
Yeah.
But yes, you're allowed to break the 10-year rule once during a season of 2x2 Retro Reviews. But because this is a special summer series that you pitched, it doesn't really matter or count for anything. So naturally...
There are no rules and the points don't matter. Got it.
Exactly. Action Jackson would normally qualify. I'm sure we would have gotten to it eventually.
Yeah.
A classic VHS cover that I remember, and I don't remember why I never picked it up. Except this wasn't really ever my vibe or your vibe that I particularly remember. Like, we didn't gravitate towards the, like... trashy action movies of the 80s and 90s.
No.
As like a,
we
didn't go down the rabbit hole of like...
Yeah, we found them like naturally.
The Van Dammes you've never heard of.
Right.
The Don the Dragon Wilson. Like,
right.
We've seen like the highlights of those careers.
Exactly.
But we definitely, this is not our genre. I feel like it's something we go back to now with nostalgia that was maybe like, I don't even know where it comes from. Because it's like we didn't watch a ton of these. Like our action movies I'm thinking of are like only the strong.
It's feigned,
and like when you get go ahead.
Feigned remembrance for a childhood not had. Because we're children of surf ninjas, only the strong, and sidekicks. And maybe three ninjas. But we didn't, and it wasn't so much as like I equate it to like. We were shown T2 at an early age. And
that's what I'm saying.
That's the standard.
I was going to say, our action guy is Schwarzenegger, if it's anybody.
Yeah. Or
in
Bruce
the early
Willis.
goings. Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
And I feel like when we found stuff, we were geared towards like, all right, let's watch this horror movie. Let's watch that one. What are they doing with this? What are they doing with that? Because that, when we're finding it, is a genre that's kind of stagnant. And we're waiting for the next big thing to happen. And I feel like Saw comes out as we're like kind of going back and finding these gems on our own in the video store, and then we've been around and like cognizant of like the changes in that genre. I feel like collectively horror is our main genre, like we share the most
for sure,
because
and with Mom as well.
Yeah,
I think that's part of that.
And the action stuff even with Mom, I feel like most of it was kind of still centered around somewhat of a sci-fi element with like the Matrix and Schwarzenegger action stuff minus
Yeah,
even
and then
Terminator and
again,
stuff is still
Dad's
sci-fi.
not like a huge action guy, which
No.
again is why it's so ironic that he fucking loves Banshee so much.
Yeah.
And yeah, I told him to go watch Reacher because I was like, that might scratch the itch a little bit. I don't know if he has. We'll have to catch him up on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Action Jackson.
1988.
First time for me. You had seen this one
Yes, I watched it when it was free.
on Tubi.
Yes.
So you'd seen it recently.
Yeah, within
the
like the
first
past
time.
6 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Knowing that we were probably inevitably headed here.
I've been trying, Noah. I feel like when we started this, my ultimate goal was to find like bangers. Like, this, dude, what about this? And you love it because you've hit me with like the obviously the Long Good Friday. You hit me with the
To Live and Die in L.A.
Yes.
Sorcerer.
Night Moves.
Just to name a few.
Yeah, and it's like I gotta find one that's like okay. I remember on a previous podcast, if you listened long enough, you'll remember this moment. If not, you can go find it. I don't know what episode it's on, but I played you "Shake It" from the 70s, and the look on your face, you're like, "Oh my god, this is great! Like, how do I not know this?" I've never been more happy on a podcast, sitting here showing you something, making you listen to something you
That was
vaguely
a
remember.
What We've Been Listening To episode,
Possibly.
I think.
We did this over at like
That would
your
be
old
that would
place.
be in this feed, but some of those Music Arc episodes have quietly disappeared
due to
because
copyright issue.
Universal Music Group was not happy with us.
Right.
So, yeah.
Which I don't get because it's like
Well,
it's
again-
free advertising
again,
for this old song.
Just recently, side tangent for a second, I've been listening to a lot of Ringer music content, and also Dissect, which I think is just a Spotify thing, but I don't know if it's co-produced by them. I don't know. Anyways, and I'm getting more and more comfortable with the idea of like we can do music stuff. We just like I'm listening to these, and at the most they adhere to the like we can play 15 seconds of this,
Right.
and not get sued.
Copyright fair use.
And they just like they pick like a banger sequence, they put a fader on the end of it, and like that's it if they even play anything.
Right.
But most of it is just conversation. I'm like, we should probably get back to
We
that.
could
at
do
some
that
point.
because there's so much good music that we haven't talked about. yet.
And I would love it because again, as much as I love those episodes, you have no idea how labor intensive it was to go like download those songs,
Right.
pull the section, try and have some cohesion between like volume levels consistent throughout the podcast where the music all kind of sounded like
Right.
balanced. Not a fun time from an editing perspective. So, but yeah, maybe more music content headed your way in the
Possibly.
future. Just something to think about.
Yeah.
Also, I have an album coming out on the 12th of
Oh.
August, so go
Okay.
check that out.
Yeah.
Narc.
Your stuff's
Lowercase
been-
N, all caps ARK. Sorry.
Your stuff has made it into like the beachside rotation, and like not beachside, poolside rotation. Like it's come up on my phone, and then like mom and dad's on their like playlists randomly. I'm like, who is this? Like some like light jazz funk stuff going on. I'm like, who the fuck is? And I look at the phone. It's oh, it's Noah. Okay. And like yeah, he sent me this, and it's some some jazz for your sensibilities, whatever. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, get it. So.
Oh, Dad.
Yeah, it's been making the rounds lately. I'm thinking it's growing on some people,
We'll see, man.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Oh,
New one is definitely a test of your
Well-
metal in terms of interest. I feel
Oh.
like
I thought you were like,
people might actually hate this one.
Oh, I thought you
might
were like-
actively be like, maybe you should stop
When you
doing
said-
what you're doing.
when you said test of your
but then
metal,
in
I was like-
September I have one coming out that I'm like that'll hopefully anybody that's still around will be like, okay, I'm glad I stuck around.
right.
But anyway,
You said test your metal, and I instantly was like, did you do a Master of Puppets cover?
no,
Did you
I
do
did not.
For Whom the Bell Tolls?
No, I did not.
Okay. Speaking of which, a friend of mine, or no, actually, it wasn't Bex. Her boss apparently, he was like, he's got a family member that's like a rapper, and first thing I said was like, "Yo, ask him if he needs some sick beats, because like Noah has those beats." And so she was like, "I mean, I don't know. Next time he's in the office, I'll be like, hey, does your nephew like need beats?" So just beware.
If anybody needs or wants beats,
Yeah.
hit me up, thearkofe@gmail.com, and just tell me you want to talk to Narc, not Noah. But
free to a good home.
yes.
All you need is the tag, bro. That's all you need. The hashtag or the at. That's all. That's all you want.
Produced by, or throw me on there, featuring. I don't sing, but I do other stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to
Can we talk about Action Jackson?
Yeah, let's talk Action Jackson.
Seriously, can we clear the table for Action Jackson?
Teach me.
From 1988, directed by Mr. Craig R. Baxley. Okay? He's got a couple features to his name. But started out as a stunt coordinator from what I can tell.
Yeah.
Let's see what this... Okay, I'm going to be honest with you. Really nothing at all worth mentioning. Sniper 2, Tom Berenger.
Dude, okay, hang on. Do you know there's like a whole rabbit hole of sniper movies with Tom Berenger?
He directed...
Like you
sorry. He directed all of Kingdom Hospital. When they tried to do the Lars von Trier show here in America. Do you remember that show?
I think so.
Yeah. He directed 13 episodes of it, which I think is the entire series. That is interesting. Okay. Did not find that in my research. Found it just now. What a special... But he's a stunt guy. He was the stunt coordinator for Predator the year prior to this.
The Predator,
and apparently
it's
did
good you
such
bring
a good
Predator
job.
up.
They were like, hey, take Carl with you and go have a good time. We'll also lend you the entire stunt crew of Die Hard, which comes out the same year,
and
right?
Lethal Weapon.
There are so many Die Hard crossovers with this movie.
And Predator.
That I haven't looked it up until just this moment. We gotta look at release dates.
Yeah.
Who ate whose lunch here? Because obviously, in the grand scheme of things,
listen,
nobody fucking remembers Action Jackson. Everybody talks about Die Hard
or Predator.
And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you Action Jackson is from a filmmaking perspective on the level. Because I'm sorry, Mr. Craig R. Baxley, you're a good stunt coordinator.
Yes.
There's some great stunts in this movie, but you're not John McTiernan. You're not a stager of it. The only person who has truly been able to fuse this together in the modern era.
Did McTiernan do both Predator and Die Hard?
Yeah, I think so.
Holy shit.
Didn't he do Predator?
Yeah. I always think Shane Black, but no, he wrote it and is in it. And then had to exit first because he was the writer. And McTiernan is both.
McTiernan cranks out, comes out of the jungle and is like, I'm going to the urban jungle.
Yes.
And then just literally tosses off Die Hard the next year. How have I never noticed that before?
I've never realized that till now.
Only made 12 movies, dude. Can we get the guy cleared of whatever the tax... It's tax evasion, right? It's
Something
not anything serious.
No, he could totally come back.
Dude, and then he just takes a 2-year break, and then he has Hunt for Red October. That's a pretty fucking good three movie run. Now then he has Medicine Man right in there, which is cable classic for mom. But then right back in the action with Last Action Hero, which I just rewatched. It's on Netflix. Then Die Hard with a Vengeance, and then lest we forget the Thomas Crown Affair, which is a fucking dope movie. The remake with Brosnan and
Rene Russo.
And then I'm not done.
Oh no, I know.
The same year, 13th Warrior.
Yes.
And then everything kind of falls apart with Rollerball. And we kind of like Basic, but
I love Basic.
It's kind of a Usual Suspects though.
But
let's be real.
Fun. It's still fun.
It holds up under zero scrutiny.
Yeah.
The entire crux of the plot makes zero fucking sense.
Yes.
0 sense when you actually think about it. But in that theater, it was like,
oh wow, Kaiser Soze in the middle of the movie instead of the end. Oh my god!
And it's pretty good Travolta as I remember.
Yeah,
we're not talking about John McTiernan though, but Baxley's obviously.
No, listen. This is the thing.
This is
Predator is
somebody he's trying to emulate.
Predator is the nexus of all.
He's trying to get
this.
to a. Yes.
They're down in the jungle. Carl Weathers even says I'm like Action Jackson there while they're shooting it, and they give him all right, well go write it, go do something with it, and the next year they're like, all right, let's make it. And I feel like in my head, Al Young and all them, they're running back and forth. But Al Young had a busy year. He's running back and forth between all these different sets.
Were they shooting next door?
They had to
genuinely when did these come out? We've been sitting here talking. I haven't done it. Okay, so Action Jackson dropped February.
That makes a lot of sense.
Dumpuary.
Yeah.
February 12th.
But still did really good.
When does because Die Hard is kind of a surprise hit because it's still at that point it's like
it's got to be later in the year.
It's the Moonlighting guy, like what?
I feel like that's closer to Christmas.
It's got it. Like, I mean, if it was smart, it would be close to Christmas.
Exactly.
But maybe it was a summer movie.
It could have been a summer blockbuster. You never know.
July 20th.
Perfect.
Right in the
right in the sweet spot.
Knows right when to do it. Yeah, you get Christmas in July.
Yeah.
Which fits with the whole. It's Christmas in L.A. It doesn't feel right. It's not the New York Christmas. You know, it works.
We got fucking. Let's just run through that real quick before we start. We're gonna tell you that Argyle from Die Hard is in this movie.
Yes,
we're gonna tell you.
We should do the man the courtesy of saying his name,
and
I'm pulling up the cast as we speak.
Obviously, we said Al Young. He's in it, and the one guy.
Robert Davi, one of the two
Johnsons.
One of the two Johnsons.
Yes. The secretary at the opening, I do not remember her name, her actress's name. She is a news prompter in Die Hard. The actor who plays Argyle.
Is it Devereaux White? Is that
Yes, that's
Argyle?
it. Yeah, that's Argyle.
Yes.
And then,
dude, Branscombe Richmond, who you
Bobby Six Killer, Renegade.
Okay, I love that you know him by name because I would never be able to pull that. Branscombe Richmond is in there, who, of course, again, Renegade, which you just mentioned, and I always think Kindergarten Cop. He has the 2-second cameo in the opening of that. Again, a cameo in my head because we watched Renegade in Japan,
right?
And then I watched Kindergarten Cop, and in my head, I'm like, he's one of the 5 biggest actors,
right? He's one of the
based
most
on my
Indian
based
actor,
on my worldview. I'm
right.
like, this guy must be
amazing.
He's won an Oscar, right?
Right. At least a daytime Emmy.
It's how I think about all of these guys. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Notably, also, excuse me. It's been so long we forgot how to do this. Plot time for Action Jackson, 1988.
Okay, all right. Plot time for Action Jackson. Action Jackson, Jericho Jackson, is a former track star who got a law degree but decided he wanted to be a cop, and basically things are going to up with Jackson. He's been demoted because there's a big wig in the auto industry in Detroit. This movie was made in Detroit. I think you got this, and you got RoboCop in the 80s in Detroit. It was before murder just ascended on that town.
RoboCop's the year prior.
Right.
87.
Yeah. And basically our yet to be mentioned villain, Mr. Craig T. Nelson, he is hell-bent on being a big wig in the auto industry, a titan of industry,
very
whatever he
big,
wants
and
to
I'll
be.
tell you what, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah,
but
no, it
continue.
doesn't. And so basically...
But Action Jackson knows what's up. He's
Right.
already suspicious of this guy.
Of course. And when these big guys start dropping like flies in these, crazy accidents and explosions, he starts putting 2 and 2 together that it's got to be this guy. It's got to be... I just know the name Delaporte. I don't remember his first name.
They say it so many times. We should have Peter Delaplane.
Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. And we can't forget his wife, who gets mixed up in this.
Yes.
Patrice Delaplane, played by a pre-Basic Instinct Sharon Stone.
Yes.
Ooh la la. And if that wasn't enough to whet your appetite to check out Action Jackson, Vanity is also in this movie. As a character that maybe has not aged well at all, Sydney Ash. What?
At all with Vanity?
No.
So she was like Apollonia before Apollonia, right?
Yes, I do.
Right. And then she got all born again Christian and basically
before this or after this?
After this.
I was going to say because something tells me she would not be playing this role.
No. This is during her 10-year cocaine binge. Because the thing
I was going to say, she's definitely on cocaine this entire movie,
right.
Correct? Because that is
nominated
definitely
for a Razzie, yes.
That is the energy of it.
Let me tell
100%.
You
but I also assume, but to be fair, I assume pretty much any action movie in the 80s
was made by cocaine.
Yes.
All of the Cannon movies were.
Yes. I just naturally assume.
Right. The sentence I read in looking this woman up was that she went to the American Music Awards with Rick James, and that's where she met Prince. And I was like, that's all I need to know about who Vanity is. And famously, Prince puts together Vanity 6.
Right.
Wants her to change her name to Vagina, but she won't. So she becomes Vanity.
How dare she?
She leaves that
seriously.
band. She decides to leave that band and drop out. So he has to go get another woman with one name, Apollonia, to be in Purple Rain. Vanity was going to be the girl. And she was like, no, I'm done. And mid-90s, 2000s, she kind of cleans her act up. She passed away in 2015 from having cancer as a direct result of her 10-year cocaine binge. And so, you know, if you're an addict, get help, but please don't do drugs. It's not that great. Not worth it. But yeah, I was more enthralled with like who she was. And I was like, why is she? Because she's in The Last Dragon, and that's a cult classic too.
Of course.
And I was thinking like, is there something there of like these cult classics with these like women with one name, or like, you know, one really great actress that like nothing ever really big happened after that. Like they were probably the shit at the time and everybody loved it, but it does not resonate with anybody today.
Yeah.
Like I guarantee you there are 10 people on this planet I can think of who may know if I said Vanity, they're like, oh yeah, from Action Jackson and last.
I feel like they would be like, oh, like something to do with Prince, right?
Right.
They would give you that at least.
Exactly.
That's how I know. I was like, she's in the Prince orbit. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah. So basically, Action Jackson has got to do what he can to pretty much protect her as a witness, and you know, get the proof that old Craig T. Nelson is the bad guy, and take him down. And he's going to use a lovable cast of characters to help him do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've got just a lot of personal favorites. Tom Wilson, Biff.
Yes.
Biff Tannen, of course.
Yes.
He's just one of kind of the beat cops or whatever. The intro I love. The build up to, like, you know, anytime they take the time to set the table for like the guy.
Exactly.
The guy that you got to be worried about or whatever.
Exactly.
But you have, you know, Tom Wilson. I forget who the other cop paired with him because he looked familiar too.
He is, but I can't think of another
To
movie
find him,
been
he's
in
buried down
right
in here.
now.
But anyways, they watch a purse snatcher like.
They
go down
they
the street,
clock him.
basically.
They're walking in the
Yeah.
car. I love the things like, oh, it was a regular sexorama at my house. That's like, yeah, okay, you moved in with your mom, and you have, you know.
Oh, there was a good "your mom" joke in the. I forget the exact beat, but yeah, that was good. Anyways, and they see this guy doing it. He goes to snatch a purse, and he actually gets the shit beat out of it, which is hilarious.
And they still decide, all right, we're going to put him in the back of the squad car. We're going to take him down. And they just start going on, laying into him about like, oh, you better hope you don't ever run into Action Jackson. He's a beast. Like
He's the baddest cop around. They don't even let him carry a gun anymore.
Yeah.
Like all this stuff. They build, you know, they get in the office. He freaks out. He tries to get loose, whatever, and basically runs smack dab into the desk.
Well, here's the thing.
Action Jackson.
He only gets away because they are propositioning a prostitute that's being arrested, and she winds up kicking Biff in the balls.
Right.
And that's when he decides to bolt. And he's running all over the place. And none of these cops can grab him. It's like, no wonder Detroit went to shit.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And, of course, what does he do? He runs into somebody with coffee that gets spilled all over this desk. And the comical way that this kid is, like, fumbling with the fucking name tag that just says Sergeant Jackson. It's like, of course, this is going to be good. Like, this will be great. This is one thing
So
I can tell you
great
just by
setup for
watching
him.
this
And
scene.
yes, and I mean, we don't have to go through bit by bit, but the runner of this kid throughout the rest of the movie, where he's just going about his life and happens to be intersecting with Action Jackson every once in a while, and then is like, oh shit, like immediately has to bail. It happens like 3 or 4 more times, and every time it happens, I was dying.
Yeah,
that was so
when,
funny.
when they're having lunch.
What a great bit.
And he walks in, and he just runs back out of the restaurant. It's like, how are you going to pay for this restaurant? It looks nice, and you're a purse snatcher. But boom,
Right.
It's
Yeah,
obviously
this
he's
is where
going-
you happen to be going. That on
he's
top
going.
of
He's
it
going in there to
is-
steal purses. Let's be
Yes.
honest. He's not going in there to get food. But
He hasn't learned his lesson.
No.
So yeah, as you said, he's on to Craig T. Nelson. There's no mystery that he's the bad guy,
Right.
and he's definitely he's
pretty
chewing some
fucking
scenery.
dude. He is having a fucking great day.
Yeah, and I mean,
How far past Poltergeist is this?
Poltergeist like 80,
It's early on, like 84, 85.
83, hold on,
I'm just wondering because
82 on Poltergeist.
82, and I'm sure that he's in the sequels, right? Because I'm just wondering,
He's in a couple of them, not all of them.
he talks about like how much of a brutal shoot that was.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if this came across his desk. He's like, oh, I get to be the heavy. I'm just going to fucking eat this shit up. Like, you're not going to believe how...
And I get to be the guy who's having sex with not only Sharon Stone, but also Vanity.
You can't really call that sex, because he's definitely like...
That is essentially...
And like...
It is essentially a drug-induced rape scene, but like more... It's... We don't have to get into all of that.
It's dicey for today's... Like, you couldn't make that scene.
Craig T. Nelson is not a good guy in this movie. We could...
not the slightest.
Leave it at that.
Dude, spoiler alert, but when the dude is like, oh yeah, I got your 357 ready, he's like, okay, I'll try it in the morning, and then he eventually uses it and he just works fine and he tosses it back to like, this motherfucker does not give a shit.
Yeah. Oh yes. No, there are some great, like, just the links he will go to moments.
Of course.
I'm sorry. First of all, it's been over a week since I've seen this. A lot has happened.
Yes.
In between. I'm way fresher on 21 Bridges, but what is the info that Sharon Stone gets, or she talks to Action Jackson?
She overhears one of his men being like, yeah, we got to the dude. Jackson got to him before we could. We don't know what he might have told him, but he ain't a problem. Don't worry about it. And she's like, oh no, I probably need to take... She's trying to do the right thing. I need to take this to Action Jackson quickly. And he just happens to be showing up at the house when she's like running away from her arms guard or whatever that wants to give her a ride. So she goes, she's trying to tell him like, look, I don't think it's my husband. I think it's people that work for him. He may not know. You don't know him like I do. I met him after his first wife had passed away, after his son had gone to jail, which Jackson is responsible for. He's not who you think he is. He's not a bad guy. You don't need to worry about this. And immediately after she tells him this, when they're out in the street, someone is trying to run him and possibly her, run them down in a cab. And you have a great chase sequence with him trying to, run after it. Because, of course, he's a track star. We got to show, like, he's still got it.
Cab.
Yeah, got to catch a cab. Yeah. And so her trying to be, the good wife that's like trying to clear her husband's name, which I don't know. I feel like halfway through, she kind of like, man, he probably is into this, but she doesn't think enough to be like, because he tells her like, wait at the police station, I'll come get you. He goes back after all, and she's not there. And of course, right there, you're like, all right, well, this isn't going to end well for Sharon Stone. But yeah, that's the information she gets, is that like, he's aware, her husband's men are aware that these other murders have happened. And she, of course, knows them because she's reading the papers and like, oh, okay. And again, these are all men in this auto workers union. And his whole plan, I believe, is like, he says he's not the guy, but he's like the power behind the throne. He's a fixer. He can like put people where they need to be, and like they'll do his bidding and like move things forward the way he wants. He doesn't want to be like the dude, because then he can't really operate the way he likes to operate. So he'd rather just be the power behind the throne kind of thing, which I guess works. And it's, I don't know, there's a whole thing with him having his own car, the Haley, that's like supposed to be like the Haley Comet thing. But again, it really, ultimately, when you get down to it, it's kind of like any garbage crime. It doesn't matter, but it matters to them. And God damn it, they're going to make sure that, they get their guy, or they stop the bad guy.
Okay, so he gets framed for Sharon Stone's murder.
Right.
Which, of course, is Craig T. Nelson.
Right.
And he has to kind of go on the lam, so then he's, like, kind of calls on all his old friends from the street. There's the hairdresser I love.
Oh, yeah.
She's great, that tips him off. And then eventually he hooks up with Vanity, who's his mistress, and she's tied into it, etc. But they don't ever...
No, they never hook up until the very end.
Yeah, they don't push any of that midway through. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, because you get this scene you get this scene where they wake up and she's like, "Oh, he didn't try to like fuck me in the middle of the night. What the hell?" And the hotel guy's like, "I'll have kid send up some food, and of course, who's the kid that sends him up food?
Exactly.
It's the fucking kid. And he's just like, relax, mellow out, kid.
With distance from it, all I can remember is all the bits with that kid, dude. That stuff was so funny. And then the other overwhelming thing to me is that Carl Weathers is just in like the absolute. I wanted to go back and like look at like Rocky 2 right next to this and Predator, but I'm just like, this dude is in the prime of his life, dude.
Did you?
Like,
I'm gonna ask you a question. Did you know that Carl Weathers played 5 years in the NFL?
No, I had
and the
no
Canadian
idea.
Football League. Yeah.
Before
acting,
got into
before
acting
Rocky,
at all.
Ever. He played in the NFL in the 70s. Like
It's like the most brutal time to be a professional football player. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There weren't. That's when the helmets didn't have that much padding.
Oh my god.
And neither did the pads really. So he came up that way. So that's why when you see him in Rocky, you're like, oh shit, like he was the real deal. And I don't think there's anything before Rocky that's that big, but like obviously Rocky's the starting point, and boom. But throughout the 80s and even in the 90s, he still was like. And, you know, watching him in that ER episode, I got the feeling like if you actually wanted to fucking throw down with him, his biceps were still like the size of a man's head.
Oh, I'm sure he would still
throw down, no
problem. He would lay you out immediately.
What about Bill Duke in this movie?
Oh, we didn't even mention Bill Duke as his sergeant, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Because that kind of plays into the whole time I'm watching this, I'm thinking in my head, like, did this, this is 88, so this is after Predator. Did they literally just go down to, because
in all of our Die Hard crossovers, we forgot to mention the Predator crossovers of
you got Bill Duke, who was Mac, and then you've got, I don't know his real name, but Billy, the Native American.
He's Mr.
Quick, the pusher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just it's one of those that I felt like I should have seen it.
Right.
And just like, how did I miss this? I feel like we would have loved it at the time. And so I had this like kind of faux built-in nostalgia, kind of like what we were talking about at the beginning of this conversation. But so on that level, I just kind of like, I just let it wash over me, and I was like, dude, this was just a fun time, man.
And it did really well. Not just, it did decent in the theater, but it did have a very big home video market when it came out. And the hopes by everyone was you could take this and make this into a franchise.
Absolutely.
You know, and famously, everybody was down to do it, but Sony wound up selling everything to Warner Brothers, and Warner Brothers just put it in their library, and they didn't want to do anything with it. So I'm assuming Warner Brothers still has the license and the ability to make it happen. So I want to ask you, if we get an Action Jackson, either like 10-part series for HBO or a straight to Max movie, who are you going to recast as Action Jackson now? Who's your immediate?
Sorry, that was a lot of dead air. My immediate was Winston Duke.
Yeah.
Which I feel like is an easy, because we want like a big imposing presence.
Right. But don't you think that Michael B. Jordan is a big imposing presence?
Sure. I don't know that. Here's the thing. And this is not a negative necessarily. I feel like Carl Weathers has a certain amount of charisma and like some comedic chops.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little more light, and I like that. And I just, Michael B. Jordan's not light, dude. He's never light.
Are you saying that without remorse, Noah?
I am. Case in point, without remorse. But I'm just like, that is a mode that I don't think you often see him in. Not that he can't play it, but I'm trying to imagine.
There's
like
some bits in Chronicle, and there's some bits there that, like, if you give him
Chronicle's still, it's an age range thing in that one too, where it's like it just, he's playing a high school kid in that.
Right.
The dynamics are a little different.
I'm sure.
I'm talking like, if you put him in it, then it is, to me, then it's this gritty Detroit like crime series, and it is more like Without Remorse, way more heavy in tone in general. And what I want, no, is like something that is a little more fun, self-aware, wild, a little over the top. So I also am sitting there going like, well, does it need to be, does his whole thing need to be like, oh, he's the baddest of the bad because he's such a physical presence?
Right.
Or is it just like, he's just the dude, man, like he's just a badass, and
Right.
and that doesn't matter. And in that case, you know who's wrapping up a series later this year? Brian Tyree Henry.
That could work.
And I know those seem like the two most obvious picks in the world, but yeah, what were you thinking? Obviously,
I
you
had
thought
Michael B.
about
Jordan
it.
head in my head, but I was also thinking Candyman.
Yahya Abdul Mateen.
Yes.
So we named like, oh, I feel terrible. We named like the 4 most successful like
Or
black actors out there right now.
Jonathan Majors.
Yeah. So let's throw in the 5th.
Or Idris Elba.
Or Lakeith. Or Donald Glover. Or
Don Cheadle.
Yes.
Give Don Cheadle. I want Don Cheadle.
Nobody said Daniel Kaluuya.
Or him too. Give me them slathered up in Vaseline, shirtless, with a grenade launcher. How do you like your ribs? Because that dude who gets blown up is the Huey Lewis lookalike from Die Hard.
Yes.
And yeah,
The dude who's manning the front desk the whole
right.
time.
Something's wrong. They're coming back down.
Truly,
Watch Predator, watch Action Jackson, then watch Die Hard. That's a perfect 3-day.
that's a good afternoon.
That's
what that
that's a
is.
good afternoon.
Because and you get into Die Hard as it's going into evening, but like that's
That's a started at 12.
Start Predator at noon,
Right.
and Action Jackson mid afternoon, straight into Die Hard.
You know what would have been only thing that would have made Die Hard better? Carl Weathers is Sergeant Al Powell.
I would never, ever,
You never buy it.
ever,
Replace Reginald Powell Johnson.
never. To even suggest it, one might think maybe you're not allowed to podcast anymore. You would take away that performance from cinema history
Yeah, no, I should.
and replace it with Carl Weathers?
But I don't want to put
Like
it.
I said, he's charming and he's funny, but he is not Reginald Val Johnson.
Okay, so what if we made him the other Johnson FBI agent?
For sure.
Okay, that works. Because who's that guy? Oh no,
Oh, I like it. No, I like him. He's
Balrog. Now
He
then,
is.
where are those hostages? Which?
he's also
You don't-
in.
What?
Isn't he in The Hard Way? Am I crazy?
Yeah, maybe.
It's not him and LL and
It might be actually.
I'm
now
trying
that
to
I
think
about
of
it.
the rest of the crew.
I remember, yeah, because I do
James-
remember him saying Moss a bunch of times.
I feel like
We're
he's
forgetting
in-
too.
he's-
Also,
he's all around.
one of the
late 80s and
dudes,
90s.
one of the
I like that guy.
the younger guys that's gonna rough him up in the pool hall. I don't know the actor's name, but I believe he was DJ in Street Fighter, and he was the lead in Joanna Man, but I do not remember his name. Michael something maybe, I can't remember. It's all these little tiny they were in this.
There are so many this movie is stuff with
Yes.
that guys on that level alone. I think it is worth a watch. I definitely would rewatch this again. Just have it on in the background
Yeah.
at some point. I had a great time with it.
Okay,
I don't regret watching it.
good deal.
Yeah, this is a solid. This is not. I'm not giving you like To Live and Die in L.A. status or anything. Like
No,
that.
no, of course not.
But this is a good pick.
Okay.
It's a good pick. Glad we chose this one.
All right.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Or are we moving on to?
No, I think we just need to go ahead and close down Manhattan. There's 21 exits off this island.
Flood it with blue. All right. I got. Where do you want to start with 2019's 21 Bridges?
Is
starring
this,
Mr.
Is this garbage crime? Yes or no? Would you apply it, that term?
I think it definitely
as it
definitely
stands.
fits.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like garbage crime from the other side. It's like a little peel back. It's like, hey, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you inherently. I don't think cops versus criminals, like your perspective, I don't think inherently defines whether it's garbage crime
Right.
or not. Because like one that I always hear still often referenced, still not watched by me, Contraband. Your precious fucking Contraband and Sleepless. Both of those I believe, are considered garbage crime, and both of those are police, right? Like, or undercovers or whatever. I don't.
No, Contraband is just Wahlberg doing his thing.
Okay.
Sleepless, there are undercover.
Okay.
Jamie Foxx at T.I.
I don't think it's exclusive to Perspective. Is all I'm saying.
No, I'm just saying, like, most garbage crime is like a Liam Neeson, like, he's the good guy and there's some nefarious bad thing. Or like a Den of Thieves, where it's like, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys. The good guys are good guys, and they're going to get the bad guys for whatever reason.
Yes.
But this is like are the good guys? Or are they bad guys too? We have bad guys. But are the good guys chasing these bad guys all good, or some of them bad? We don't know.
Well, I would argue we do know.
Oh, yeah, of course we know.
And because we know, it renders a lot of the drama of this movie completely inert.
Right.
So you asked me if I thought it was garbage crime. Did you have a follow-up question to that? Like, do I think it's garbage as well?
Well, yeah. If it is or is it not garbage crime? And if it is garbage, how do you pull it up out of the rubbish and shine it up a little bit and make it better? That's what I'm wondering.
Oh, I have lots of suggestions for how to make it better. Do I think it's garbage? No, I don't think it's garbage. I do think it is an incredibly flawed movie that it's one of those I sit there and actively look at, and I'm just like, but if you just tweak this and this and this a little bit, and I honestly hate doing that because I'm not a nitpicky viewer most of the time. Try not to be. I try and just take the movie on its own terms. But I could not help but like just see this thing that I was just like, yep, weird decision. So before we go too much deeper, again, our lead here is the late great Chadwick Boseman.
Yep.
So now we've hit Carl Weathers, Chadwick Boseman. Again, if you want to know exactly how we got here, go check out our Patreon. Second plug this episode, patreon.com/thearkofe, for the other side of the Summers in the ER series. So now, plot time for 21 Bridges.
What is his name? I can't even think of his name.
You're terrible at this.
I see. This is the one I watched.
You're joking.
This is I watched it a week ago.
Andre Davis.
Okay, yeah. So Chadwick Boseman, Andre Davis. We get in the first little bit that his father was also a policeman, killed in the line of duty, and story basically focuses around two shooters who were robbing a
robbery gone bad.
A clandestine cocaine bin, whatever you want to call it. And
Den of cocaine.
Perhaps
they could have called this film.
Is it 30 kilos? No, it's 300 kilos. And so they're obviously like, shit, we got set up. And as the police are, as they're in the middle of this robbery, the police show up. And then it is just like, let's light up as many cops as we can. I don't know if there's another movie that has this many dead cops, like, slain on screen that I can think of. Because like, T2, he's just shooting nerve gas at them. And those are SWAT guys. Those aren't like just regular blues, But, yeah. And so they realize, hey, these guys they've left Brooklyn. They're on the Isle of Manhattan. We got to lock Manhattan down. There's 21 bridges. Really, there's only 17. The other 4 places are tunnels. And
I think you're misremembering. The movie was originally called 17 Bridges. And then they changed it to 21 Bridges when they realized that they had miscounted initially and that there's little accesses to like different little tiny islands that they didn't account for that, like, yeah, that's technically a bridge.
Oh, I thought it was just because
it was the title afterwards. No.
And there was 4 tunnels.
I don't think that's what it is. I think if you look it up, there are, in fact, 21 bridges. And so the whole thing is, but people still are like, oh, but that title's wrong. But it's like, no, it was wrong. They fixed it. But the whole telling of that story makes you think that, maybe it's a Mandela effect, dude.
Maybe.
I don't know. I don't even know if that applies here. Okay.
Now, this was a straight up Netflix release, right?
No.
It came out in theaters?
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm looking in it.
No, it absolutely did, but it is
not that great.
No, I was gonna say. Oh, it absolutely feels like a Netflix movie.
Yes.
And so much so that
and it's just there.
Exactly, and it totally does fall into so many movies recently that have no presence when they come out, tank at the box office, and then 2 to 3 years later, get rediscovered on Netflix, and they're the number one movie for like weeks at a time.
Right.
And yet, often, not necessarily in the case with this, even though I think this is better than the average like Netflix original movie. But yeah, a lot of times it's weird. That stuff coexisting side by side, most people I don't think know the difference. Like a lot of times they probably assume exactly like you did, like, oh, that movie premiered on that's a Netflix original or whatever. But then when you do have those movies, some of which are like, okay, they don't fully work, they're garbage crime, they're whatever, but they're fun watches. Sometimes you watch one of those on Netflix and then you turn around and watch one of their originals, and it's like, well, this is terrible compared to even that.
Right.
And it, like, by comparison, makes them look worse. But since they're all on the same platform, they all show up in the same subcategories, most people aren't paying attention to whether it's got the N on it or not.
Right.
So,
well,
what
my
thing you're reacting to something over there. What's going on? What's up?
I didn't do any research, but I'm wondering if this was slated for earlier, because it came out in November and it went up against Frozen 2. It never had a chance.
I mean, not a lot of crossover between those audiences, so I don't know what you mean didn't have a chance.
Every dude and like couple that wants to go see this, they got to take their kids to Frozen 2.
What about couples that don't have kids that just want to go see an action
They
movie?
vastly don't get outnumbered by those who have kids.
Okay.
Because
I just don't.
There's
I
two
don't think
people.
Frozen 2 is eating the lunch of this movie specifically.
Right,
you know
but
what I'm saying?
it's hauling in everything at the box office. It got the 4th highest. I think if you put it anywhere earlier in that year, you possibly put it up against something where it has a better like runtime, or if you maybe coordinate it with like the release of like Black Panther on DVD or Blu-ray. So you've got like, hey, it's coming on DVD and Blu-ray, and you got this new Chadwick Boseman movie in theaters here. You know, check this out. Because I feel like, again, if we're going to play that game, you got unmarried couple with no kids, 2 people going to a movie. You got a couple with kids going to a movie, let's just say the nuclear family, that's 4 tickets versus 2 tickets. Even if you got the same amount of people, 4 beats 2 every day. So it's going to take that market share of like the whole box.
That is what they say. 4 beats 2
every time.
Every day.
Well, I was going to say every time because it could happen multiple times in a day.
But it rhymes if you say it the other way. Okay. All right. Did you do the plot?
Yeah,
they locked down Manhattan,
and they've got to start chasing these 2 criminals.
But
and cop killers.
Maybe there's something more complicated, as one would hope, given the fact that this movie is an hour and 40 minutes long. Pretty economical, to be honest with you. Yeah. It gets a lot done. I don't know if it should have stuck around longer or not. Should we just say it from the top?
Yeah.
Because I don't know really how else to talk about my issues with this movie. It is very jarring to think about what if this came out like a year later.
Yes.
It's so hard to watch this.
Because this is the last theatrical movie, right?
What?
I thought I read somewhere, but this was the last theatrical thing that he had come out.
I mean, technically, Ma Rainey played in theaters and stuff.
But it wasn't a big release. It wasn't like in every theater because of what was going on at the time. Like November 19, when this came out, that's when they discovered coronavirus. So, like, it's in the ether. It's there.
Right.
But, because, I mean, it wasn't that deep into 2020 that he put the photo up on social media and then took it down and all that. And I mean, I know had the Five Bloods and other stuff that's come out, but I don't, from what I remember, maybe I'm wrong. Probably.
Because did we know? I feel like it happened right around Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Anyways, November 22nd, 2019 was the release.
Oh, yeah, that's right. This is the one that's the Russo brothers.
Produced it, yes.
Yeah, but they didn't direct.
Right. Brian Kirk directed it, who had mostly done television prior to this. Some Game of Thrones and Luther, with Idris. Um, so
He passed in August the next year.
Okay, so I was trying to think, because Defy Bloods came out in like February or March.
Right.
And I think we knew that he was sick. Or did that not come out until like, I don't know. It's all kind of a blur. But anyways, I'm going into this movie with like, A, that in my head, because I know it's one of the last few. B, the context of everything, just thinking like, everything that happens in this movie is fundamentally different through the lens you would have seen it in November of that year versus just a few months later. And that's so wild to think about. What are you looking at, man?
Yeah, technically Ma Rainey is the only posthumous release, because Defy Bloods did not do a theatrical thing. It just came to Netflix.
Right.
So I'm just looking to see if it was.
I just couldn't remember when we watched Defy Bloods if we knew if he was had already passed by then or not. I can't remember. Because I feel like Ma Rainey was the first one that was straight up posthumous.
We knew,
that was like that was a tough
that one
sit.
was released.
Yes. So, anyways,
Defy Bloods was about 2 months before he passed.
Yeah. And arguably, like, his physical deterioration, you can definitely see way more in those two movies, but you can see it here, and I don't think I was also ready to deal with that once again, because it's just, it just brings in a, like, emotional stakes to it. Whether the movies are good or bad, because I'm sitting there going, like, he's still putting his all into this, regardless of how good the material is. And you just think about what's going on, like, as soon as they call cut. And I don't know. It's weird going back to some of his stuff. Especially these later roles. But what were you going to say?
42 and Get On Up and The Express, the Ernie Davis story, those are before his diagnosis. So if you're going with it, Civil War, Message from the King, Marshall, Black Panther, both Infinity Wars, 21 Bridges, Defy Bloods, Ma Rainey, everything after 2016, this man went on set and did, knowing that he was battling colon cancer. And it wasn't until probably about 4 years later that it was like, you're in stage 4, nothing we can do for you. But to see all that, to like, I mean, I know so many people with the watching Captain America Civil War in theaters. There were so many people who were just so fucking excited to see him show up on screen, to just to be there as T'Challa, not like even in the suit yet. And you're like, oh fuck yeah, here we know what's coming, and then to see that progress to one of the biggest Marvel movies of all time. I fucking love Black Panther, you know, and then watch him in the Infinity War Endgame stuff, still giving it, and you know, I'm sure there's a contractual thing or whatever, but he could have done that and basically lent his voice and had just someone else in the full suit. They didn't have to do anything with him with his face, but he was there and he showed up and he was a part of all that. And it's crazy to think that they had that remembrance thing, the big picture they did after all of them were done for like Endgame with all of them there. It's crazy to think that like he probably went there knowing like, I don't have a lot of time left, but he wanted to be there with all those people that he had met. And he just gave everybody, I don't know, I don't want to say hope because that's cliche, but like you watch him be in these things and know that like it's very rare that anybody gets to be that big, and to get to be that big, that fast, and have that kind of an impact. It just fucking sucks when the Academy decides that Anthony Hopkins gets an Oscar and he doesn't. That's why I was so pissed off. You know what I mean? I know it's not fair to bring that up again. It is what it is. The Father's probably great. I haven't watched it, but that's just why I got so upset when we were talking about it when it happened.
Yeah.
Because, like, arguably, we're going to talk about this performance knowing it. Ma Rainey, all of them, because of the lens we have to watch it under. And it's unfortunate. And I don't know who they're going to bring to be the new Black Panther. I really like the other kid in this that was in Homeland. Or not Homeland. Homecoming.
Have you watched the trailer?
Yes.
And you're still under the impression that you're getting a recast?
No.
Okay.
I'm getting a recast.
what are you saying? You're interested to see who it's going to be.
Who's going to be the Black Panther?
You're saying what character is going to take that mantle?
Yes, yeah, that's what I mean.
Okay.
Are we going to have it out of the blue,
go.
or are we going to have somebody we already saw, we already know? That's what I'm wondering.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's just we're already in the midst of it or whatever, and honestly, let's go ahead and set the table so that when we do get to 21 Bridges, I can just talk about it objectively as a movie,
Right.
and not all of the baggage that came
Right.
with watching it and everything. And I'll still probably hit on some of that. But the thing I was referring to off mic, there's been a lot of discourse since the trailer dropped, because it was essentially confirmation for everybody that, like, we don't know exactly under what circumstances, but it seems like they're going to kill off the character of T'Challa.
Right.
As we know him in the MCU.
Right.
And yes, there's the whole who is going to take the mantle
Right.
of the Black Panther seems to be the question. There is a huge contingent online, and I really fundamentally kind of understand where they're coming from when I stopped and thought about it for a second, which are very, very upset because why? Why are they killing the character?
Right.
His family said they wanted it recast.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted the legacy of the character to keep going, that the character didn't need to die. We didn't have to lose both of them
Right.
simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
Like, his family was in favor of it.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the creatives are going to do whatever they want to do. And I'm not, like, telling Coogler what to do. But a lot of people have just pointed out, particularly, I was listening to a very compelling, like, little, like, 10-minute monologue from Van Lathan on Higher Learning. He does a lot of stuff with The Ringer. That's a Ringer show as well. And he has a huge attachment to Black Panther as a comic book fan, as a fan of Chadwick Boseman, the actor, and the MCU on screen. And his thing he just fundamentally cannot wrap his head around is, like, why do they get to have 6, 7 different James Bonds? They get to have 3 different Peter Parkers and, like, throw them all in a movie together. Like, we've had so many different iterations of characters and stuff that he just is like, but we don't get to, like, we have to get this double tragedy of, like, we not only did we lose one of our most prominent black actors, but we also lost, like, one of the most important characters to black culture in a, like, pop culture superhero space. And because the MCU is what it is, it's like they're not gonna reboot. They're not gonna reboot and have a new Black Panther in a different context, maybe ever, is what it sounds like. A new T'Challa, like,
Right.
that character.
But my question to them is, do they know when this movie takes place?
No, and I still think from this trailer, as reverential as it is, we still don't know that there might be not a literal death of him in the movie, or, like, whether we pick up the action something has already happened, or whether something in the course of the movie is maybe he still is, and they keep the presence of him around, but somebody else is taking up the mantle, which I think people would be a lot happier with, but it's also something maybe that they don't want to reveal, because what a great moment that would be, is like, you think, oh, we're never going to see him again, and then you get there to the theater, it's like, yeah, he's still there. We found a way to do it in a way that's respectful, and we found a way to, like, move it forward. I think that's what
like a Fast 7 scene with, like, a, hey, it's Paul Walker.
That's what everybody...
That's a cathartic way to do it.
That's what everybody wants, is the equivalent of that.
Right.
But I think they saw this trailer, and again, it's a teaser, and it is a trailer that is literally acknowledging we know the task ahead of us. Essentially, we know all the expectations. But I think you also got to think for a few seconds that it's like, but Marvel is notorious for, like, as heart-wrenching and, like, heartfelt, and this feels like the kind of thing where I would imagine, like, no, Ryan Coogler cut this trailer, or had the idea of the No Woman, No Cry into Kendrick Lamar, like, all of that. I imagine that was not something that was cooked up in a marketing team.
No,
you know
of
what I'm
course
saying?
not.
So, but again, don't underestimate the Marvel side of this, which is they don't want you giving away everything in the trailer. They in fact like to film fake scenes or do fake CGI where they put characters in places that they're not,
right,
et cetera, et cetera. And I'm like, I think there might be a trick up the sleeve, and I think that could be the ultimate magic trick of this movie that has all of these expectations, has not only the weight of where the current state of the MCU is, where people are just kind of like, dude, we need a good one of these. Like, we need a rock solid. Like, when was the last, like, banger one of these that everybody was on board with?
Nobody was on board for Multiverse of Madness, but I watched it, and you and I would love it. You watched it?
Of course.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
I
think it has problems, but I enjoyed it. Thor: Love and Thunder is a fucking shit show.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I'll wait for Disney Plus.
You should. I liked No Way Home, of course.
Yeah.
And I liked... No Way Home. Not Far From Home. Yes, No Way Home.
Homecoming, Far From Home, No Way Home.
I like Shang-Chi.
Oh, I love Shang-Chi.
And the other ones I've been kind of mixed on.
Eternals I liked. It was different. Just for the fact it was different. I appreciate it for that.
I mean, if that's the bar, you know.
Hey, it's a lot of location stuff, not a lot of green screen. I can appreciate that. I like Black Widow.
Oh, God. We don't have to get into this whole debate. Sorry.
We should at some point, though.
No, we talked about Eternals a bit at the time, but I'm sorry. I love Chloe Zhao to death. I don't care how beautiful the vista, the fact that you shot it outside is. If you fill the frame with a bunch of CGI bullshit that does not look good and is not composited well, it doesn't. Then what was the effort for? Then what the it's still. I thought it struggled to. And there are moments of grandeur and amazing like vistas in that movie, but moment to moment, not for me, dog. No.
Okay,
sorry,
for me, dog. That needs to be your catchphrase.
Oh, dude.
No, not for me, dog.
Yeah. I can't just go rip. It's like that's way too close to Randy Jackson, dude.
Yeah, that's
way too close. It's a no for me.
I happened to bump into him, and all I had on me were these swords at the time. You're not going to get Randy. You're not going to get Randy Jackson's autograph. But yeah, okay. I mean, I get it, but my whole thing is like, I don't know. I
was curious where you stand on the debate, which is clearly, I'm saying I understand.
I just asked because what people forget is there is a 5-year gap between Infinity War and Endgame, and this movie could very well fit right in that 5-year gap. And she's saying my whole family is gone. My it's whatever. Yes, they bring them all back, but you could have this movie exist in that 5-year gap between the snap, knowing that, oh, well, T'Challa himself will come back in Endgame.
That's the ultimate ending of this, is you don't realize where you're at time-wise.
Right.
And you're kind of slowly piecing it together, and then he returns from the final battle when they bring everybody back to
find
help
all
with
this
whatever's going
with Namor, the Submariner, and all that. That's perfect.
Yeah,
because if all you do is if you have the Black Panther show up in that final battle, and people are like, "Oh my God, is that him?" All he has to do is take the mask off and give me the back of his head with the haircut that he had, and everybody rejoicing. End film, done. The character still lives on, and then the family, because of what that character is, what it means, gets to do that. Because that would be an original thing. Because everything is, it was the snap and then after the snap. We have not had anything that takes place during that 5-year gap. I think that is what's going to be up your sleeve. I think anybody can pull it off. Ryan Coogler can, and I can't wait for it. Bottom line, trailer did its job. Everybody's talking about it. It's going to be great. It's happening later this year.
It's a fantastic trailer. No, 100%.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
But I do have a lot of questions. And I don't quite know where I stand on the whole thing. Because I'm kind of waiting for... I'm like, well, let's see how they... I was like... I feel like we're definitely prejudging a lot.
Right.
And because they haven't officially said, hey, he's like, we're killing off the character. They haven't... Right. To my knowledge, they have not explicitly said that. So... we'll see how everything plays out. Now that we've put that to bed, this is part of why we didn't do Black Panther as our Chadwick Boseman pick, because I knew we would inevitably end up talking about it. Now, I did not know that we would get the trailer at Comic-Con in the time before you and I recorded this episode. So, but yeah, I didn't know if you've been paying attention to that. But I mean, I do. It is kind of when you step back and look at like, yeah, there's all these other roles that constantly get recast, but like there are very few like prominent black characters that have been different iterations other than like Shaft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, just the fact that I can't really point to another one is, like, kind of sucks. But,
yeah.
Anyways.
Well, no, I mean, that makes perfect sense. And I mean, if that's the case, and you are going to keep the character of T'Challa, I just want to know what you're going to do. Are we just going to acknowledge that, like, he looks different, and it's still T'Challa? And it's just a different actor playing him, and they're not going to even... Because that's my whole problem with anything, is when somebody is noticeably changed.
When you do the recast and nobody acknowledges it?
Right. Because
so you want them to acknowledge it in the movie and draw more attention to it.
I didn't realize this, but I watched... I was watching, just needed something on while I was eating, and I was like, Knight Rider, bam.
Okay.
First episode of Knight Rider. It's not Hasselhoff in the opening.
Okay.
But then all of a sudden... there's a shadow all over his face, and it's Hasselhoff's voice, but the woman turns on him and shoots him. And when he wakes up from the coma he's in, it's Hasselhoff. It's a completely different actor. And I'm like, did they mean to do this because they were going to have the surgery and like, oh, he wakes up as David Hasselhoff? Or did they cast this dude and they shot what they shot?
They shot the pilot, and then
when it went
to series... They needed Hasselhoff.
They shot the pilot, but it just didn't work with that dude. Or that guy was like, this isn't getting picked up. I'm out. I got picked up by another show.
Right.
And because it was like he had like a lot of Harry Hamlin vibes, you know?
Okay.
So then they went with Hasselhoff and they said, oh, well, we won't show his face when he gets shot, and he'll just wake up magically after surviving the surgery, and he's going to have to look different so they won't know it's him. And they'll just do that. You really can't do that with a Black Panther because it's like Wakanda's the like most technologically advanced nation in the world. Unless it's a thing of I cannot go anywhere in public without my life being threatened, so I need to do something to alter my physical appearance. I will still be T'Challa, I will still be your brother, whatever, but we need to use this vibranium technology to give me a new outward appearance to the world so that no one questions, you know, as far as they know, T'Challa, the king of Wakanda, is still in Wakanda. And this guy walking out around the commoners and like doing whatever, I'm the king still, but like I don't want people to know what I look like, kind of thing.
I mean, I guess my whole thing is just like there's such an easy fix because they're bringing in all of this multiverse stuff. It's just like it's T'Challa from a different multiverse,
that works too.
Pick whatever actor you want it to be.
Michael B. Jordan.
And now they end up, I mean, again, that's my ideal we said that from the get-go. I feel like we were talking about that like the week after he passed, which is terrible, but we were literally like, oh, well, they could do something with Killmonger's body and like maybe he ends up like that's immediately where our heads went. And I was like, yeah, but no, I don't think that's going to happen. No, but I think I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's how you do it and keep the character alive, but you could still even allow for this version of him to pass on. But then you get into the like, okay, but if somebody else is going to take the mantle, then that's our Black Panther. If it's Shuri or whoever it ends up being,
or that's the thing. Like I said, you let that person be the Black Panther for this movie, but it still ends with like, oh, hey, I'm back from this final battle. Yes, you had the suit and you were using it here to help,
right? But
I have come back for the to save you all.
Notably, the suit we get towards the end of that trailer does look female, yes. But again, the poster artwork seems female, and I think that's why everybody is like, she's taking the mantle. They killed him off, and I'm like, I don't know. I just don't know. Okay, we got to stop talking about it.
Yeah,
21 Bridges.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's right. We were talking about that movie.
Yes. You already gave us plot time
a
while ago. We got a little lost in the weeds there.
So famously,
other than my hang-ups with watching it, from the get-go, we were talking about perspective.
Yeah.
At some point.
Yeah.
In there.
Yeah. No, this can't get released after 2020. It just can't.
Well, I had just a very quick fix. And I wanted to say all those nice things about Chadwick Boseman, so that what I'm about to say is taken appropriately. Stephen James should be the lead of this movie.
Yeah.
Like,
I love that dude. He's great.
It should just be from the get. What it should. Sorry, I'm getting a little worked up.
Oh, go ahead.
Have you seen Ambulance yet?
I got to the part where they did the shit and they got in the ambulance to get away, and I fell asleep and I never went back to it because I had to get into like other stuff.
Well, I'm shocked to hear you say that as a
baby.
lifetime baby boy.
I was also watching it in my room, and I wanted to watch it on a bigger screen with better sound.
Okay.
So I was waiting for either mom and dad's or like Beck's or wherever just to check it out.
Well, I recommend that you do that. And it just occurred to me, I was like, you said right when they were about to get out, and I'm like, there's like a 20-minute sequence of them trying to get out of that building, so what are you talking about?
They just like literally...
Are they still in the parking garage?
They just jacked Homegirl and her ambulance.
There's a whole parking garage thing.
Yeah, like, that thing. They got... Yeah.
Okay. Anyways.
They removed themselves from the parking lot situation.
If you've seen Michael Bay's latest opus, which I was a huge fan of earlier this year, one of the better action movies in recent memory, even though it's got some flaws. If you saw that, the basic setup was you had, two brothers, one a little rough around the edges, one good at heart, essentially. Right. It's kind of the same dynamic you have here.
Exactly. Both ex-military.
Both ex-military, except in this case it's... Oh, no, he did try and go in and then he got discharged. That's all.
Yeah, he didn't make it that far.
Right. So, very similar setups in these characters, but again, Ambulance starts with them and is all from their perspective, and like the pursuit that Yahya Abdul-Mateen is on of just like, I gotta pay my bills and like I don't want to be in this situation,
and the VA fucked me over,
but I'm doing it. And you're with them, and you have these other characters that come in, and the like subplots built within this giant chase sequence that's going on, but it's centrally focused on them.
Right.
And I'm watching this the whole time, and I'm like, I'm sorry, when these guys go in to rip off some drug dealers because they know it's going to be there, and they're surprised that like, oh, there's an extra huge amount of cocaine. Okay, we're going to take some more of it, and there's clearly, you're immediately kind of like, wait, is Taylor Kitsch going to be... Also, by the way, had no idea it was Taylor Kitsch for
Me
like
neither.
25, 30 minutes.
I was so happy. I was like,
wait, what is up with this dude's face, dude? He reads Kitsch, but there's something off here.
Right.
And eventually I was just like, pause. And I looked it up. And I was honestly kind of surprised because it was like, it's a very muted role.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking just in terms of sheer screen time, character setup, any of it, where I was like, was his role like edited down quite a bit? And then I start going on this whole brainstorm. I'm like, dude, I could restructure this whole thing. It's centered around them. We're following them. And then Boseman could still be in it, but in my head, this role should be more of a little bit of an elder statesman.
Right.
Who gets brought into it. I'm thinking more the vibe of like Ruffalo in Collateral.
I just rewatched Collateral the other day.
Where you just have the movies going, and then the first time we break from the action of Cruise and Fox in that car, we're like,
who the fuck is this dude?
We're like, wait, there's a new character? Like, I didn't think we were going to leave the car. What? And then that's when you get, like, was still one of my favorite Ruffalo performances, but yeah, you get him as the undercover cop, and like, but he just gets introduced then.
Right.
There, it's not a
and you
whole
get
build-up from
just
his
splashes of him doing the legwork. Yeah,
right.
I totally get that.
And so in my head, I was just like, that's kind of what I wanted to see. And the maybe elder statesman who like gets hip to, wait, something's off here. Because as a viewer, as a pretty savvy viewer of garbage crime and good crime movies at large, when this opens and they go in and they're taking the stash, and then two uniform units show up, and very casually knock, I'm sorry, I'm immediately like, these are dirty cops.
Exactly.
They're involved in the drug deal. So I'm sorry, when they kill them, like, part of me is like, holy shit, dude, they killed the fuck out of these cops. Like, they really linger on it. And I genuinely was sitting there going, does the movie want me to sit in like, oh, they're really fucked now, like, or oh, can you believe they did this, like,
right,
they killed all these cops? But I'm watching it as a viewer as like, dude, we just came off of We Own This City. I'm sitting here with the perspective
right.
of like,
there's people out there saying I'm a dirty cop.
Dude,
can you believe
good.
that?
That's good.
I gotta dial back from this one, man.
Wayne, you are a dirty.
Nah, man, no. Really?
Speaking on my name,
man. Such a
fucking motherfucking brick. Okay. So, but yeah, dude, I'm sorry. We're coming off the back of We Own the City, and so J.K. Simmons rolls in and is talking about like, oh, these were good cops, blah blah blah. They have families. I'm sorry. I'm sitting there going,
how nice are their houses?
I'm sitting here going, I'm sorry, dude. These cops were in the game. They chose to enter into this. This is fair game. I did not feel 1 ounce of sympathy for them.
The initial
shooting their way out of this situation.
The initial
and I couldn't
ones,
tell if
no.
the movie, the
ones that are rolling
that are
up
in response.
I'm like,
I agree.
I'm like, oh, okay, man. But
you're
in it.
But that's Taylor Kitsch.
You're in it.
That's also Taylor Kitsch.
Yes.
So they
the
still
fact that
do.
They
keep the barrier of like Stephen James doesn't really want to be doing.
He could step away from it at any point, really, and
yes.
and basically all he's done is like an attempted one. And if they catch Kitsch alive, they'll give him a deal of like 10 years, roll on your boy, and you can be out in 5. You didn't fire a shot. Yeah. You didn't want to do this. But,
dude, it's the... He was eyeballing me. I had to rock and roll. What does fucking Wayne Gross say? And he's like, I had to get it on. Excuse me. Yeah. Oh, he was looking at me. Man.
Speaking question, did you listen to Marin and Man?
Of course. Day one, immediately.
That is exactly why I went back and watched
Collateral. If you think I'm not sitting over here counting the days until my pre-ordered Heat 2 hard copy comes in the mail and I can just devour it, then you don't know me at all.
Oh, I do. Normally when that happens, you're like, hey, this, and it's just we haven't communicated about like what's what. At
some point, I have got to, I don't know under what context, you may have met him at some point, but I've got to sit you down with Ross. He's a buddy, mutual friend of Brendan.
Yeah, met him.
Redhead kid.
Yeah. They're like, he should do your podcast. I was like, yeah, at New Year's. Yeah.
He is, dude, I mean, he is maybe the only more diehard Man fan in our orbit. Like, he was... We were having a conversation. This was in Asheville when we went to go see Lord Huron, dude. And he and I are just, like, going off because he just brought up the fact that, like, so have you heard about Heat 2? And I was like, yeah, dude. He was like, do you have it pre-ordered? I was like, you bet your fucking ass I do. And we start talking about it or whatever. And sure enough, like 10, 15 minutes later, we're circling back around to a conversation he and I have had many times, which is just like, dude, Miami Vice, bro. Miami Vice. Underrated, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, it's fucking great.
What do you think I'm going for
And
here?
so I'm just, dude, it's getting there.
I'm going for the Sonny Crockett circa 2003.
We're fucking, like, he and I are going back and forth, and, like, Tim and Evan are, like, here, but they're not, like, they're not ready to go the distance or whatever. But I out Tim as, like, dude, Tim didn't get it. Like, we saw it in theaters that night, and he didn't fucking like it. I was like, dude, say your line. Like, say your line. And Tim's like, oh, the trailer is much bigger on the inside, because that was the only thing he said that entire movie was when they do get to the trailer park sequence. He was just like, the trailer's much bigger on the inside. Only thing he said the entire time. And so, but here's the thing, and here's where I knew that's not even the best part.
Okay.
Here's the thing, and here's where I was like, I already knew I loved Ross. Like, we've been bonded over Michael Mann for over like years at this point, but it just, like, every once in a while we remind each other, like, dude, we get it.
Get it.
And I'm, like, describing the scene or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, dude, like, I was like, Jamie goes up and he, like, grabs the pizza, and Ross, without missing a beat, he's like, yeah, dude, he's like, Milano's Pizza. As I'm saying it, like, I was like, dude, that's why I thought, like, we both know the fake name of the pizza place that Jamie Foxx uses in one line of dialogue to, like, open up the door to the trailer to get in there. And then we're like, oh, yeah, dude. She's like, no, what will happen is... And we do the whole, like, yeah. It just... Anyways, we have to get Ross on a podcast at some point to talk Michael Mann. Preferably after Heat 2 comes out.
Let's just do Michael Mann's book club. And we'll just do
Oh, absolutely. No,
we'll all read
we
it.
will be doing I can guarantee you that. I don't know how soon we will finish
Dramatic
it.
reading of Heat 2.
Dude, we should
Manhunters.
Dude, okay, you know there's going to be an audiobook, and I don't even know the legality of this, but I'm like, what if we did our own, like, podcast version of Heat 2, and we each pick a character,
right,
and we're each playing, like, we all do it in separate sections. Oh, my God. We will be doing some sort of Heat 2 episode in the future. We can promise you that.
I
21 bridges.
I say we record it, and we send it to him and say, can we please do this? We've all bought it. Can we keep doing this? We love this. And when is the next book? But what I wanted to say was one thing. If you have never had the pleasure of meeting Tim Niles, the trailer is much bigger on the inside is the perfect way to describe this man as a human being.
Okay.
Someone who is very, very quiet and soft-spoken in some places. But when that man opens his mouth, it is fucking gold.
Yeah.
You talk about just like a straight up killer every time. It's him. I fucking love that dude. Like hands down. I don't know if he's ever gonna listen to this, but Tim, you are the pan, my friend. Like that's just
you are the pan. Yeah. Dude, hell yeah.
You can fly. You can fight. You can crawl. Okay. Anyway.
Hell yeah. Okay, so. That was my biggest thing is I'm like, I think instead of the kind of traditional cop, like cops got to solve it all, got to bring down the corruption, I think it's way more interesting if they know from the get-go that eventually when that Ruffalo-esque figure comes in and is like, got to take you boys down, there's some sort of phone conversation or like a conversation across the street or something. I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. But that's when it's like, hey, ask your sergeant why blah, 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 why they showed up and why they did, they knocked casually, blah, blah, blah. Like, and then that sets him off on the like, okay, well, I don't want to show my cards that I'm now investigating. And then you get like some nice intrigue on that angle because we kind of know from the get-go, Chadwick's being told by J.K. Simmons, who basically comes in and is like, we got to clean this up. Like, you find these guys, you fucking put a bullet in them. And they're like, of course they want this guy because
he's trigger happy.
He's already killed like 8 people this year.
Which he said is like, I love that was the one fact I love. He's already been brought up like 8 or 9 times on good shoots that were self-defense, and he kills like fucking 6 people. He makes a new record in one night.
Of course. And
I love it.
And parallels, of course. Action Jackson, not allowed to carry a gun.
Right.
Maybe Andre's the one who should have had his weapon taken away.
Right. If there's anyone.
Again, all of these were apparently justified shootings as far as we can tell. And just, the 2019 of it all, the only like real, cops abusing their power, like outright, is perpetrated on a white guy, basically. So it kind of manages to side dodge that. And also having a black lead cop kind of lets you off the hook, if you will.
And I feel like all the cops that respond are white or Italian.
But here's my thing. I watch it with my 2022 brain, and all I can think, literally all I can think is, what a terrible misallocation of resources. The amount of money and manpower that is being spent right now, and that's when I had my grand revelation of how you fix this movie. We do it from their perspective, okay? This is no longer an hour and 40 minute, like, get in, get out, grimy crime movie. This is a 2 hour and 20 minute New York crime epic. We'd actually shoot it in fucking New York for one thing, because I don't think they did this.
Toronto.
Probably. Toronto. Here's what it is, and we've talked about this so many times, but this is Chadwick Boseman's The Purge, but here's how we do it. This shit's going down, right? 8 cops slain, dead in the street, 2 robbers at large. It's all over the news. Everybody fucking knows about it. Cops are swarming, okay? They cut off the bridges. We're only focused on these 2 guys. Well, guess who else is watching this broadcast? Guess who else is on the internet when this is happening? Every fucking person in New York who wants to do some illegal shit. And then it's a free-for-all. Then it's judgment night. It's fucking chaos night, dude. It's just that's what it. Night. But I'm saying that's what it sprawls into.
I bet
and
that's
these two guys, these two robbers who were trying to get the fuck out of Dodge, now are in the midst of not only we're running from the cops. It's open season on everything, and also people are gunning for them because they know they just did this huge drug deal and they have money.
Yeah.
So not only are they, again, it's not a cops versus criminals thing. It is a situation of their own making where they bring in all of these resources to like, we've got to get just these guys. And in doing so, the rest of the city descends into chaos. And then it's just, that's the rest of the movie.
The bridges are already closed. And we've got little hints in the opening of like how bad shit has been getting because of X, Y, and Z things. Like maybe the U.S. is still involved in a war with the Soviets. And so with the bridges being closed, we've lost the island of Manhattan. What do? Well, let's mine all the subways. Let's cut off all the bridges, and we'll just make Manhattan one giant prison.
Obviously.
And if you do the worst shit on the planet, like kill cops, you don't follow the rules, then by God, President Donald Pleasance is going to put you in that prison and you're never coming out alive.
That's where I was going with all this.
Okay,
this is the origin story for Escape from New York.
Yeah. That's the new Escape from New York.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry.
When we remake it, that's it. It's Escape from New York. We just call it that. Or Escape from Manhattan, whatever you want to call it. Escape from the 5 boroughs. Who knows?
Yeah.
There really are 21 bridges, huh? That's crazy.
Wow, bro.
But no, that means there's 21 police stations in Escape from New York that they have to man. Every bridge is going to have its own police station at the end, right?
Maybe they built some of those post.
Probably, yeah.
Post that
once
era.
they've, cut them in half.
I don't know.
It's just so weird that the bridges are still intact, and then they just kind of come up to this wall.
Sorry, another random podcast I forgot to message you about, and I was kind of hoping he would end up on Marin, but he didn't do it. But Carpenter was on The Big Picture.
Oh, okay.
In the same episode they did. It was 40th anniversary of The Thing.
Yeah, I know they put it back in
been touring around. Yeah. But yeah, he's on there, a little 20-minute chat about The Thing at the end of it. But then they also do like a cool retrospective rewatch.
Cool.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I definitely I agree with you. There's a lot. It's
there's
not...
just I couldn't tear myself away from, because to be honest, it was so generic for the most part, other than the core concept, which I thought was a pretty cool setup. And I don't
How'd you feel about Sienna Miller?
Didn't realize it was her.
Me neither.
Which
I think that's the theme. It's like
I
didn't realize it was her. I didn't realize it was Taylor Kitsch. Which is like all white people look alike. Is that what we're doing with here?
I don't
That's
know,
what it
man.
feels like.
But they did they weren't given much to do. She obviously has a little bit more to play than Kitsch, but I thought even with where Kitsch's character goes, which is that he dies like 40 minutes in.
Yeah.
Which was kind of surprising because I had just realized it was Taylor Kitsch, and then I was kind of like, well, I guess that's where you're at, dude. They really tried to make you a leading man for years. It blew up in your face. Through no fault of your own. I've always thought he's fucking pretty solid in everything he's been in.
He is one of the only saving graces of the Terminal List, as far as I'm concerned.
I haven't watched any of it.
I thoroughly...
Does he have any documents that have signatures all over them? Does he or does he not? Does he have the list, and
Yes.
Are there any signatures?
Yes, there are signatures.
Then I have to watch it.
Yes.
Clearly. It's clearly the unofficial sequel to True Detective Season 2 we always wanted.
Yeah.
This is what happened if Paul,
yeah.
But Paul didn't die.
Yeah.
And him and Chris Pratt are going to make sweet, sweet love, right?
Is
that what this show's about?
Watch it.
All right.
I will say, for the money, it's pretty... I just watched Con Air, and it took me forever to realize, like, Billy, put the bunny back in the box.
Yeah.
He is like a colonel in there that's central to the... He's just like, wait a minute. All these people... Is that this dude all grown up? Oh, shit, it is this guy. Because, like, I feel like people get etched in your mind in a certain way, and it doesn't compute with you that like when they aren't. Like when people say Sienna Miller, I think G.I. Joe. I know that's not what everybody goes to, but like she's always going to be etched in my mind. That face, the red hair, all that. So that's probably why I was like, oh, that's Sienna Miller. Okay, yeah.
I think Factory Girl, the
Yeah.
poster for Factory Girl, a movie I've never seen, but when I think of Sienna Miller, that is the thing I think of. She was good.
Yeah.
She was good. J.K. never bad in anything. Unimpeachable. This movie does commit a cardinal movie sin, though.
What's that?
They underutilized Keith David, bro.
Yeah. And it says the fucking title.
What's he doing there? Like, seriously. He needs 2 more scenes.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing? Here's what we do. Again, that's why we said all this nice stuff up front. I'm sorry. This role should be an elder statesman. And that elder statesman should be Keith David. Keith David should be the one trying to help young Stephen James get out of this shitty situation.
Yeah.
That's your movie. In the midst of this chaotic evening, this 5-6 hour period where everything is going to shit in New York.
Yeah.
That's your movie.
Is he like a family member or like someone he knew from the military, or he's just a guy?
I think he's just a guy who has a background of like, hey, maybe he had some IA investigations we don't know. And so there's the question of like, okay, yeah, you're trying to get this cop to potentially help you, take out these other, or like alert him to like, hey, something going on in your department. But then there's a question of like, well, can I even trust him to be the dude? I don't know.
How do I
Which
know
is
he's
why
not involved
all
with the
of
whole
this
cocaine era?
Starts to sound more and more like a mini-series that I'm just writing in my head.
Right. No, I mean, it works.
And less like the movie that they made. Action set pieces. Anything really light your world on fire here? Because I thought there was the one pretty solid chase scene in kind of the midsection. It's right after Kitch is dead at this point. And Stephen James has Sienna Miller at gunpoint, and they're having the whole face-off conversation.
And she's just telling him to shoot him, and he doesn't.
Yes, and then he runs from there. That whole stretch, the kind of chase through the hotel and out into the street and everything, I thought that was fairly well shot.
Yeah.
Had some good energy to it. Movie's not poorly photographed. A lot of drone overhead stuff. Nothing to write home about. Capable. That's what I would say. Nothing. But yeah, nothing from an action standpoint that I ever really latched onto. There is the kind of cool shootout when they go to get the money laundered.
Yeah. And those cops just randomly kind of show up.
Yeah, and they're shooting through the door. That was pretty solid, but nothing in that vein that I'm like, oh, but that sequence, that was like, where I'm like, Den of Thieves has some bangers in it.
And I think that's, and looping that back, I think that might be one of the reasons why we were never like, ooh, action. Because I don't feel like we were ever like, oh, you got to see this movie because this specific thing happens. Because I went on Amazon the other night and I saw that some new the Hero and the Terror, Chuck Norris, was available, and I was like, I remember this one. It looks good. And I went down a rabbit hole and realized that The Hitman, Chuck Norris, is still not available to watch. I want to watch that because that's the one.
We've literally brought it up maybe 5 times just in this year.
But I went and looked, and a lot of it talks about like that movie that he was doing was saved by this specific action sequence, the Delta Force, the missing in actions, all this stuff. It's saved by like this one big set piece.
Well, that's what
and that was a thing in the 80s. And I feel like
so sorry, we did not even mention it. The moment from that in Action Jackson, it's not an action set piece. It is Craig T. Nelson's death.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good death.
Oh, yeah.
Encourage you to seek out the movie and stick around just for that.
Oh, yeah.
That's a good payoff death. That was sorry.
No, I agree.
Back to 21 Bridges now.
Yeah. But, like, and it's one of those where, like, I don't need an action movie to, like, wow me. Because I just want to feel like I don't need like the big stunt or the big whatever. I just want to feel like the guy that's doing it is doing it the best he can. Like, that's an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Actors are great with lines and stuff, but where to me they move from actor to that's a movie star. Like, Keanu Reeves is a movie star. Keanu Reeves is doing everything an insurance thing will let him get away with. Like, in the wake of Maverick, I've seen so many times where they're talking to people like, yeah, so Tom Cruise says, oh, I want to do this shot. And he says, and the insurance guy says, no way. And I said, what'd you do? He said, so I got another insurance guy.
Right.
And it's like, and it's the same with Tom Cruise and most people. If I feel like that person is there doing it, and I don't think that in this movie that it's a ton of stunt work, because there's not that much for Chadwick Boseman to do in terms of just chasing all that.
Well, and then
it's not rewriting
as
anything.
I'm actively watching this, part of me is like, I don't know how public he was with it, but it's like, were there certain considerations taken for, like, we just can't have him, like,
just physically
we just can't have him doing
this
this much, like, and again, to his credit, and the 110% factor of it all, like, you never feel him struggling in this movie, like, to me personally, not in like a,
physically,
not in
the motion in the face. He's struggling with everything, the implications of what it means, and all that. And I can appreciate that it does not go. To me, it kind of has like a Desperado end, where it doesn't have a full blown out another shootout like we've had before.
I actually really like that closing.
It's very subdued. Yeah. It's all in this house, and the implications of what's what, and him basically talking her down to, like, you go ahead, do it. Go ahead and do it. They're all on the way. You go ahead and shoot me. Try me.
Yes.
See if you want to try me.
Without spoiling anything, basically, in the course of the night, Kitch gets killed, like we said, and then eventually there's a set piece on a train where we think finally it's like, oh, okay,
I can trust this guy.
And of course, right when that happens, Sienna Miller, who ends up being dirty and in on it the whole time, shoots Stephen James. And of course, I love that he's like, what the fuck? Like, that's the best line delivery in the whole movie.
As a boy from South Carolina, I can appreciate his accent throughout the entire movie. Yes. I bought it, hook, line, and sinker. I appreciated that, And yeah, you're right. Just the what the fuck, man? Come on, like him. Just if I didn't know any better, I would just be like, well, this guy must have been living in New York his whole life. This Chadwick Boseman guy.
Yeah, And I kind of wish we had gotten to this element earlier, because then we get to have a great little, just do it with your eyes, man, where he gets to play the cell phone moment of, like, kind of suspicious of her.
All right, the last phone call that she made was to the guys that showed up at that apartment.
Yeah. Because basically, people have been one step ahead of them. There's been, again, all of this stuff is not poorly seeded. It's just when you open with those, I think they're expecting you to kind of just, like, not think too much about it with the way the cops approach and just happen to be there. But it's like,
if they had said anything other than just like, hello, if they'd have been like, yeah, we got a silent alarm call here, something to make you think that, like, this guy tricked him,
from the get-go, I'm like, these cops are dirty, it's a cover-up sort of thing.
Right.
And so, knowing that, it kind of took a lot of the twists and turns of it out of it for me. But when you finally, in the kind of last chunk, get him caught up and he plays the cool game with the cell phone and, like, hey, can I make a call, and figures everything out, but doesn't show his hand. Have you ever had a moment like that in your life? Because I never have had one that I can actively think of, but, like, I definitely want that to happen at some point in my life, where you're suspicious of something, you're smart enough to, like, slyly confirm it, and then you keep it up in the old noggin.
Twice.
Okay, you don't have to go into detail or explain
both of them work related. Both of them were someone telling me, well, I did all this and this and that, and I didn't mean for this to happen. Here, look, you can see what, see if you can do this. And this lady, she handed me her phone, and I'm like, okay. She goes, see here, this thing. I was like, okay. I back out, and I see a sea of emails back and forth
Right.
with this person that she's talking to who she didn't know, and it was a scam thing, and it was like, this guy's clearly been talking to you for like 8 days.
Right. You
And-
bought it. Okay.
And like it's one of those like, you know, hey, send money to this, and what, it's not like a nefarious we have your husband deal. It's like a, well, you know, you want this, you want product, we need this to help move, we need this for investment. It's an investment thing. And I flat out was like, oh yeah, okay, I see what you're talking about, this $1,200 one. But I'm looking and I'm like, oh bitch, you did all this. This ain't fraud. Like, you're in
It's
on
the yeah,
You,
but
you
it's
either-
the
you
it's
got
the
duped.
not showing your hand
Right.
thing.
And
That's
so I
what I
didn't do
want to
anything.
be able to do in like
And
the
then
coolest way.
There was one other time where this girl came in and she was like, I lost my debit card and it looks like someone like spent money on it.
Uh-huh.
And the fraud lady sent me this picture, right? And I'm like, do you know this? They want to know if you know this guy. Oh, I don't have any idea who that is. Okay. I go and look and see that she had Cash App deposited to her account. And it's not her name on the Cash App. So
Uh-huh.
I take that name, I put it into our system. Oh my God. We have a guy by that name. Well, let me go see what his ID looks like. Oh my God, that ID looks just like the guy that was in that photo I showed her, but she doesn't know who he is. But yet she got a Cash App from him. And I'm like, oh, okay. As soon as she leaves, I call fraud. I'm like, hey, you guys realize that the name that just came in, money before the amount of money that is missing, came into her account a couple of days ago. And the person she says she doesn't know is the person that sent it to her. And I get, wow, we don't even think like that. I'm like, you don't think like that. I get it. You do the process.
You work for fraud.
Right. You do I get it.
This is your job.
You don't assume. I appreciate that you don't assume you assume that this is, but like a few points of clicking, and I was able to figure out who the person is that you're asking her about. And I don't even get paid to do that. I just was curious because that's how movie, crime, true crime brains work.
Right.
So yeah, there's just twice in the line of work that
Yeah,
it's
I
happened.
think
Never
it's
a
just-
personal thing, but yeah.
It's very much a programmer in terms of like none of this was shocking. There was no shocking twist or revelations in particular, other than because I did have a little bit of investment of just like, I like Stephen James as an actor. Fucking If Beale Street Could Talk is incredible.
Do you
Where I'm
think-
just like, I wanted him to maybe get out of it. So I was a little crestfallen. Here's the thing. If the movie, again, 2020, this movie doesn't exist.
Right.
Definitely not in the same capacity. But if the movie even wanted to begin to interrogate any kind of racial politics as they relate to policing,
Right.
the movie has no interest in doing that.
No.
Which is why I feel like it's almost unfair to judge it for what it's not doing. But there's a way and a framing of this story, again, that is more from his perspective that still plays out the same way, and that moment is like devastating. And it's like, it sucks in the moment, but you're more like, you're just kind of frustrated of like, oh, okay. And then you kind of realize there's a little bit. I at that point was like, there's too much time left on the clock. I was
Right.
like, I know how this ends. I was like, we don't really need
Do you think
this
okay,
much.
So do you think that these get made and no one accounts for like people like us? Do you ever feel like, do you ever know, because hear me out. Do you think that there is a person that went to the theater and was like, oh my God, they were dirty the whole time? I had no idea. Like, just this movie blows their fucking mind. And they have to.
Sure.
Right. So
Yeah.
you think they make movies for those people?
Yes.
So
For
why-
what
The
we
lowest
often
common
what
denominator?
we often refer to as the lowest common denominator. Yes.
I just feel like if
You
they
make
made
the
movies,
thing for the dumbest person in the room. You
Right.
gotta make you restate things 3 times. You tease things rule of threes because people don't get it till the 3rd time. And that's why, again, think about the movies that, like, it's not for everybody, but a lot of the movies I love the most are the movies where the movie itself is inviting you to do the homework, to be
Right.
actively having questions and asking stuff. And that's my thing, where it's like the cop thing in the intro, it's like you were saying, it's just one line of dialogue, just like silent alarm, like NYPD, blah, blah, like anything
right?
that makes it seem like, oh, dude triggered it, like dude knew there. But then you're also going like, but why would he call cops there if he knew there were drugs there? Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he was just part of the front. Like, there's ways to complicate that where you have a little bit of ambiguity, but just the way they did it. And again, maybe I can't divorce myself from all the stuff we've seen.
All you had to do was have them ask him, did you hit the silent alarm? No, I didn't. All right, let's go. So whenever they show up, it's like, oh, he lied. And you don't even think about it. You know? Like, oh, he just lied. Because what's better? All your cocaine is gone because these dudes stole it? Or these dudes stole a little bit of cocaine and the rest of your cocaine is still hidden where you had it. And, you know, they get killed by, you know. Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just, it's always interesting to me to think about where, just like how easy it is for people who have done research and been in this and like enjoy movies and you know, entertainment in a way that like, how can you turn your brain off and just sit and enjoy it, but also you're thinking ahead of the movie as well, because there's been several times where like, and Bex is really good about like, oh, this, like, really? Yeah. Why you think that? I don't know. I could write this. And then it turns out to happen. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just funny because I wonder about those people who don't get there on their own. And I just wonder, are they having a better time than I am?
They probably are enjoying a lot more movies.
Probably, yeah. And I hate it, but I love it. It's like it's a weird curse to have, you know, to where you know, like you can suspend your disbelief in a movie and enjoy it and not think about like, wow, I wonder how many times this take took, and like, I wonder what they had for lunch that day, or like you can suspend it enough to know that like you're being shown something that you're having to piece together on your own. But there's certain ways that you're given things that you're just like, okay, I get it. Like this is so formulaic. What's the point of even doing it?
And part of me wonders, like, is that a product of somebody writing a very, like we said, like a programmer where it's just like, I know the beats I need to hit. Here you go, boom, boom, boom. Or is a result of something that probably in its original form, and who fucking knows, I didn't do any research on this one, but maybe in its original form, maybe it has 17 bridges, it had a lot more meat on the bone. It had a lot more to chew on. And maybe it got studio noted to death where they were like, oh, this part's a little confusing. Or like, we don't want to, like, we definitely want to make the bad guys bad, though. Like, we want you to sympathize with them a little bit, but like.
Just one of them.
But like, yeah, just one of them.
Like, it's not his boy, it's his boy's little brother. Yeah. His boy from the army? It's not his actual boy from the army. It's his boy's little brother, and he feels like he has to take care of him.
I feel like maybe it's those things sometimes where it's like, oh no, this was a way more like trust your audience sort of movie that was like smart and intelligent, and then people higher ups are like,
the money guys.
Oh no, the last one I saw like that, I only made 20 million because like people didn't know what the fuck was going on. It's called Sicario, you know, something like that. Exactly. Where I'm like, okay, yeah, which Sicario made money, but compared to that's what I'm talking about. Sicario is like the god level tier of a garbage crime movie, where it's like it's the sort of thing that, like, I mean, they literally made Day of the Soldado, which is probably more in that vein right afterwards, even though I still haven't watched that one, but
it's good. Day of the Soldado, yeah.
But I would imagine it's a bit of a step. Denis Villeneuve.
Okay.
Blade Runner. Yeah. Dune. I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's taking Taylor Sheridan's a good writer, and like he's got good scripts and stuff. As we've seen,
right. I
owns television.
I knew Taylor Sheridan,
but
that fucking guy in Horses, man.
Yeah, it's like that's the way he. But I'm saying that movie, you put it in the hands of a David Ayer, for instance, or a Brian Kirk who directed this movie. It's
Sabotage with Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's what I'm saying. It's probably a pretty solid thriller, but you put it in the hands of somebody who's like, okay, I've seen a billion of these movies, but like, what if this movie exists a little more in the silences, a little more in long takes, not quick cutting, like very moody and like living in this a lot more. And then that's what I'm saying. That's what you get in Sicario. Mm-hmm. It's like, wow, this is how you elevate something that I've seen that on paper I've seen a billion times. I've seen a you're in too deep double cross story, like especially like Below the Border. Like we've seen stuff like this.
Mm-hmm.
But
there was a whole show about that.
I was saying, but you've never seen it this way. It's in the telling. It's how you do it. And that's where, like, even this movie, the way it exists, I'm like, maybe maybe if there was a cooler action set piece, or
Yeah.
maybe if there was a little more Keith David, maybe if there was this or that.
There seems like there's such an emphasis now, and John Wick is before this, right? The first one.
Yes. Yes.
I
First
feel like
one
there's
is
such an emphasis
2016,
now.
I think.
If you're gonna do it by yourself, it's got to be gritty and close up and like as splashy and as cool as you can get.
Holy shit! Sorry,
John
John
Wick
Wick is
style.
2014.
Right.
The franchise is almost
Right.
almost 10 years old.
Yeah.
It's wild.
But if it's gonna be like, if it's a group, they automatically have to be military and they automatically have to like know what's what. And I just want like a fucking Peck and Paul Wild Bunch crazy fucking just. These guys don't know what the fuck they're doing. They got shotguns and they got machine guns, and they're just letting it all happen. You know, that's what I want to get back to because it's so coordinated. I mean, I could say the Terminal List is the same thing, but I mean, it's all based around that community.
Brother, you really just hit on something that I have not like really articulated, or I don't know if I've had that emotion, but I don't know if I've had that exact thought where I'm like, yeah, that we get so much like you're saying, very, and I wonder if that's partly the proliferation of video games and like that whole side of it. But yeah, a lot of the like action movie making we get is this very like, it's tactical, it's groups, it's very like military and quick cutting and blah blah blah. And yes, it's always people that are so capable.
Like, okay, what I'm telling you is, if you're a foreigner and you don't know anything about the United States and you watch 10 action movies from the last 10 years, a foreigner's going to go, damn, Afghanistan and Iraq fucked those boys up. They must all come back, and they must all rob banks, and they must all be living on the fringe, you know. Whereas like, you know, Vietnam, well, they must all come back and join motorcycle gangs. They're all ex-Vietnam guys, you know, or
Right.
like Sons of Anarchy type deal. And I feel like it's just this thing of like, I think that's why like I kind of, as much as like I probably shouldn't have, that's why I did appreciate the remake of Death Wish, and that's why I liked Nobody. And you know, same thing with like the Gray Man that came out. I'm told early on, you're gonna know all these things. Okay, great, you're capable, but you're not military. You're trained by the CIA, and that's fine. I could go with that. So anywhere you go, anything you do, I'm expecting a Jason Bourne meets James Bond meets John Wick all in 3. Boom, got it, and I'm fine with that. You can be tactical in certain places. You can go balls to the wall and blow out the side of an airplane. Great. But like Den of Thieves, this one, it's like this weird thing of, well, we gotta figure out a way for them to be able to do this without like doing this. And one of the things I think you might appreciate about the Terminal List is like the Ja Courtney character that like runs this security thing. He never like even joined the military. You know, he just like was really liked being tactical and trying to run things. So he's just a regular dude that's just hired ex-military and just trains a bunch and a bunch and a bunch. And he thinks he's capable, but he isn't. And there's several times where his own security is like, you need to fucking cowboy up and get, you know, like sack up and do something. Like you can't just sit here, you know? And so I can appreciate that with that because it's like, it is a bit of a twist. The bad guy's not another military dude. It's just some dude who like really liked war movies and Call of Duty, had a lot of money and built a company and then started to train. The idea that like, you know, Shang-Chi, he's not a superhero. He knew all that martial arts from years of training. And then he just happened to get these magical rings.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So but it's just been, it's such an easy go-to to be like, oh, they're ex-military and they do this. And I'm like, I wonder if ex-military guys watch this shit and they're like, we don't fucking do that. Yeah, some of us drink a lot. Some of us go out to the range and have fun. But like, no, we don't go rob banks and just like cause general mayhem. You know what I mean? But it's just weird.
Very different movie with completely different aims and everything. But look at the action in a movie like You Were Never Really Here. That's an ex-military character.
But I buy that.
That's what I'm saying.
Because he doesn't have the upper edge, and he's like turning his
that's
gun
what
and
I'm
look-
saying. That's another way to show you that like it doesn't always have to be communicated in
And that's what really. But I feel like
the
that,
exact same way.
I feel like that is what might actually happen to someone.
that is
The truest, like, one of
those
the
things
truest.
feel so. Those set pieces feel so lived in and like organic. And the only other thing, what we want, is the movie that we still have not gotten, and I don't know that we're going to, which is Rebel Ridge, which is the next Saulnier joint, which was supposed to star John Boyega, who walked off the set in the middle of the movie, and I don't know whatever happened to the movie. So I don't know if it is getting finished or
Why
what.
did he walk off the set?
Family issues or something like that. I don't know. I haven't heard anything about a return to production or anything. This was like a year ago when this happened.
So he did that, but he's gone and done that new one that's coming out with him. The bank one.
Oh, Boyega? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, I don't know what's happening with the Saulnier movie. But
Yeah.
what you and I want is a green room approach to action.
Yeah.
Where it's very... Those characters, for instance, the skinheads in those movies, in that movie that are using guns, they have the feeling of people who are comfortable with guns, but at the same time have not been in,
Right.
crazy life or death situations.
But
and
you buy it that they've been in that club every weekend getting indoctrinated and going out to the range behind there and using it, and it's just another day at the office for them.
But it does, again, it's a physicality thing too, of just like not making everybody a fucking like perfect, like you said, Jason Bourne action dude.
Yeah. And it's like the way of the gun.
That's a good.
They don't. I don't think they make any mention of them ever being in the military. But they are, they get cover. They move, but they're not like, it's not this precision tip of the spear. It's like you would believe that everybody is Navy SEAL trained, and even in 21 Bridges, they're like, these guys were in the Army, and it's like no. Not everybody in the Army trains like they're a SWAT team or they're Navy SEALs.
Right.
Some people in the Army and they just make coffee and do paperwork. Like, I like to see that. Like, that's what if you're going to do that route, he was still in the Army. He got mouthed off to somebody, whatever, but he was not a killer like they're saying. He was just going to do clerical stuff. So he even has to wrestle with, like, yes, I know how to fire a weapon, I know how to field strip it, I know how to use it, but I've never actually physically had to, like, kill someone. And I think they talk to him. He talks about, like, first time killing somebody, blah, 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 because you had to shoot the dude that was in the restaurant that they, took over first. Mm-hmm. He kind of had to because it just happened. Right. But I don't know. I know we went off a long tangent, but it's so weird that, like,
we did. The last thing I wanted to say on the movie is when you get that wrap up scene with J.K. Simmons, which simultaneously I think is a very well acted and it's a good scene. Objectively, I think is how I mean to say that. Contextually, though, what he's saying in that scene and the whole, like, this was about providing for our officers' families and like that whole line, it just rings so hollow to me. And I'm sitting there going the whole time, like, I literally said out loud, I was like, yes, but now Chadwick explained to him why that logic is completely fucking flawed and that's not okay and that cannot be, like, that can't be the sentiment of this movie is, oh, but yeah, I kind of feel bad, like J.K. Simmons was just trying to do the right thing by his boys. And my We Own This City brain is like, these fucking cops were moving the drugs that they are tasked with taking off the street and that they, like, sorry. But you're literally telling them there's a war on this thing, and then they're finding a way to profit off of it, and they're justifying it by saying, like, we don't get paid enough. Like, that's the answer we got to pay these cops for.
When I was growing up, you could be a cop or you could be a criminal. What I'm saying is, when you're facing a loaded gun, what's the difference?
Yep. You put a little too much New York on that, not enough Boston. The Knights of Columbus were real headbreakers. Yeah.
How's your mother doing? She's on her way out, Frank. We all are. Act accordingly. Sorry.
Anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do that another time. But yeah, anyways, it rings a little hollow for me where I'm like, yes, it's well acted. Yes, I see what you're trying to do with this. The kind of like, oh, but the villain had good motivation. And I'm like, please say something. And luckily he does kind of bring it full circle where he's like, my dad got killed because of this shit. Like, the guys who killed my father were ramped up on PCP. Like, he killed 2 of them. One of them didn't. And he's like, and you're telling me you're just putting more of this shit right back on the streets?
Exactly.
Like, at the end of the day, fuck you. No. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, at least we got there. But yeah, I think it's a movie that, and again, part of me is like, if we hadn't lost Chadwick Boseman, if, you know, something that got delayed with the development or whatever, and this movie is a post 2020 movie, I think it can still be made and be made a lot more interesting.
Oh, yeah.
With a lot more to say.
Mm-hmm.
A lot more stuff to, like, you know, delve into.
I'm waiting for it.
But
It's coming.
as
gonna be
it stands,
something.
honestly, it's close to. I thought in my head, I was like, yeah, it was like 2016, somewhere in there, because all of his are kind of clustered together in my head.
Yeah.
And I queue it up on Netflix. I'm like 2019. It's like,
Yeah, because all of the biopic stuff, that's right up until it's like, okay, you're going to be T'Challa in Avengers 3 or Captain America 3.
and this was kind of the first. I mean, he did in the name. What is it? In the Name of the King.
Message to the King.
Message of the King,
which was really good. I really like that one.
I still haven't seen it.
You should check it out. That might have been, honestly, might have been the one we should have gone with. You can watch it and let me know. But it was good. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I'll probably end up coming back next episode. Like, dude, why didn't we do that?
Yeah.
Okay. We've definitely done our due diligence on both of these. Ultimately, I came out feeling like this was a flat 5 out of 10. Just a straight down the middle. Like,
again,
doesn't try to do too much. Thankfully doesn't outstay its welcome.
No.
It's pretty. It moves. It definitely moves.
Yeah.
And again, not a bad movie. Just a very much like. I've seen it, and unfortunately, even with like some pretty solid actors across the board, I don't feel like anybody is doing anything that elevates this to the level of like, oh yeah, but there is this one thing in it you got to see. Because for me, by not like Stephen James, I think is very good, but by not giving that character a little bit more to play,
right,
we don't get a full 3-dimensional performance.
Exactly.
And I could argue same thing with Chadwick, because I need a little bit more of him and Keith David.
Yeah.
I need a little more of him and a pre-established, like, higher up figure who clearly knew his father. Like, we see Keith David in the background of the funeral there, which is why I was just like, I thought there was going to be more of an element to it. And, you know, it could have even gotten dicier where it's like, oh, my surrogate father figure, my friend of my dad,
is actually over it all.
He's the one who started this whole thing, and like
my dad might have actually found out about it, and that's why he died in a fight with 3 guys who were high on PCP.
Yeah,
that's the story. Yeah. And the sequel would have been, all right, now that I know my surrogate father figure, you know, whatever, now that it's him at the top, I don't play that card yet, and I keep the other guys under my thumb of like, I know. You don't know what I'm going to do with this, but I know. If ever anything happens to my mother, anything happens to this person or that person, we're done.
Last thing we got to mention.
Oh yeah, the mom.
Would you know what I'm going to say?
No, what?
What were you going to say?
No. What were you? Is that what you were going to talk about? His mom?
But what do you think I have to say about the mom, who's in 2 scenes of this movie?
She didn't need to be there at all.
I mean, yes, we could have excised her, and I don't think it would have made much of a difference, but it did give me I so rarely get hung up on things like this, but so when we see him initially, he's 10 or 12, I think.
Right.
And then I think we do an 18-year jump.
Yeah.
I think he's 10, and then we jump to 18, so he's 28. Maybe I'm off.
Yeah.
Maybe he's 32 or something like that. His mom, like, triples in age.
Right.
Like, all of a sudden, she's this old, frail woman who he's like, Mama, I'm taking care of you. And I'm just like, dude, like 18 years. I was like, what? She looked like a young, like, vibrant young lady. Like, what? It was such a weird casting jump of, like, I think it was the same actress. And I think they aged her up a bit. Probably. And they did a little too much. Yeah. And I was just like, why does she look like she's, like, ancient now? Like, what? I thought it was 18 years. It looks like it's been 45 years.
It's dementia. It's not a fucking brittle bone disease or some kind of skin thing. She just has
like,
dementia.
Sorry, that was a weird hang up early on in the movie where it's just like, how much time has passed? Okay. Yeah, Action Jackson, a fun one. It was on Tubi for a bit. It is no longer. It is available for rent on Amazon Prime. You can also get it for free if you want to do a subscription to Brown Sugar.
I did see that, yeah.
Which I did, and that's why it had already been used, and you didn't have the ability to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sorry.
I'm still waiting for you to get Epics back so I can finish that War of the World series.
Epics.
Epics, yeah.
I don't even know why the hell I had Epics. Clerks? No. Jay and Silent Bob reboot, maybe?
Probably, yeah.
Something Kevin Smith related.
Probably.
Possibly.
I saw he made an NFT movie.
Yeah.
That was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It was
Sorry,
like-
let's not get sidetracked.
Okay. That was kind of neat.
Kilroy was here. Yeah, it's a horror movie. Shot
No,
a
I
while
wanted to
ago.
watch it because I love that thing.
I was interested to watch it too, and then I was like, wait, I can only so I'll never be able to see it.
But it's the first of its kind. So
yeah, okay.
eventually, probably it'll be something
Yeah,
people.
let me know when I can actually watch it. Clerks 3 comes out in like a month or two.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's cool.
I didn't know that was happening.
You haven't seen the trailer?
Nope.
We'll go watch it after we're done with this.
Sounds like a plan.
Great way to end this episode.
Yep.
Anyways, yeah. Sorry, I didn't finish. 21 Bridges is readily available to stream if you have a Netflix subscription.
So much so that you
and
might
I
think it's a
assume it'll
Netflix
be,
movie.
I assume it'll be there for quite a while. And
Yeah.
yes, I think a lot of people probably do think that. Not a huge recommend for me though. And again, if you're in a nostalgic, like if you're a completionist, obviously you want to see this for Chadwick. If you're just in the mood to see something that he's very good in, Gavin recommends Message for the King substantially over this. And I guess my pick, having not seen that one, would be Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Even though
Oh no, that's amazing.
that is a pretty emotionally fraught movie.
Yeah.
With all the baggage it carries with it. So I would almost go, even though Da 5 Bloods weirdly is because he's the one who's not there, has some weird baggage to it. But I would oddly say maybe Da 5 Bloods because you get a little taste of him, and then you get a really rollicking, fun, crazy action adventure movie that also ends up being really heavy and depressing by the end of it.
You know what I think would have been great?
What's that?
If he could have been in the harder they could.
Oh yeah, man.
That would have been amazing, dude. Any role, and then you don't have to make him a lead or anything. Just have him in there. That would have been great. That's just talk
Yeah,
about
man.
it, man. That would have been perfect.
So
There's plenty of ways to celebrate that man's life and career and legacy, and we do look forward to Black Panther coming later this year. We'll definitely talk about it when we get there. The next time you will hear us here on this main feed, we will be discussing a new 2x2, which you are only going to find out what that is if you go to the Patreon and subscribe and listen to the Summers in the ER series that pertain to the television show ER. Again, we've said it there. We're going to say it here. The only thing you're going to be hearing on this feed for now is simply the 2x2 reviews that come from those episodes. Literally, if you get Starbucks or you just don't want to get an extra gallon of gas right now, you could afford to listen to it for a month. Just saying.
yeah,
Do it for 1 month and stop. It's perfectly fine.
check it out.
We're literally just trying to see
And
if
then
the numbers
forget
are-
you signed up for it.
Just
And
like
give
that
us
gym
5
membership.
months for a year.
which you
yes.
could use
and
this
you can
podcast
do that
at that gym that you
at
don't go to.
patreon.com
Yes.
/ the arc of E. As Gavin said, Summers in the ER episodes are popping up there. You also may have noticed on this feed, if you're somebody who just checks in every once in a while, I'm doing a little mini-series called Primal Pod and Cast with Mr. Mikey Chappelle on the show Primal, which is on Adult Swim and also available on HBO Max. It's in its 2nd season. We have covered, we did a season 1 recap, and we covered the first 2 episodes of this season. Those episodes will most likely be dropping on Tuesdays, where you can also check out the current season of Bending Not Breaking. They're in the midst of season 6, about a third of the way through. So if you want to catch up with them, they're talking about the 3rd season of The Legend of Korra. What else do we have going on? I think that is pretty much everything. I'll mention it one more time. I do have an album coming out on the 12th of August. But in the meantime, if you want to check out my current singles and EPs, you can head over to your music player of choice. But, Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, all that good stuff. Tidal, Instagram, TikTok. It's everywhere.
You're on
Narc, lowercase n,
You're
all
on
caps,
Tidal?
ARK. Yeah, man.
What?
Yeah.
That's dope.
If you could really make me blow up on Tidal, that would be great, because they pay the best.
Oh, okay.
for the streams. They actually they take care of their artist.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Spotify. You want to know how much I made off Spotify?
How much you make off Spotify now?
I'll tell everybody before we leave. 2 cents. Thus far. 2 cents. You should see the fractions. Here's what I do love about DistroKid, which is my service that I use, wherever. It literally says, it's like, you'll notice there are several fractions of a cent. These will eventually accumulate together and tally up. Parentheses, unlike the plot of Superman 3 and Office Space. And I was just like, all right, cool.
That's a perfect.
I was like, cool. So you're going to let me keep my fractions of a cent and roll them up. Okay, cool. Until next time, for the Archive podcast, this is the show we're doing it 2x2 Retro Reviews. I've been Noah.
And I've been Gavin.
And we've been the Blanchard Brothers. I forget how we end these. Because we stopped it. We're not doing... This is Summers in the Yard. Or, shit.
This is just 2x2.
Clear!
Yeah.
No. Are we doing that for this?
This isn't an
How did
ER
we end
episode.
the first one? It is an ER episode. It's part of Summers in the ER.
Okay.
It's 2x2 Retro Reviews, Summers in the ER edition.
Oh, okay.
It's a sub-mini series within the sub-series. Get it to fucking together.
Somebody give me a portable chest and a CBC. Get that crash card over here. Get that crash card over here. Ready? Charging to 200. Clear.